in the morning, and I talked about what did I start talking about? Mystic places, and then we got talking about paranormal stuff, and we went all. I ended up being on for 3 hours or something. I was testing for an hour, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
so basically the same thing that happens to us at work.
Pretty much. Pretty much. So yeah.
Just get on a roll.
So anyways, for everyone joining us, this is my guest today. This is Kate. And we're going to talk Marvel and MCU and probably just all superhero stuff and just see what happens. If anyone has questions, you can put them in the chat here. And for anyone watching the VOD later, because I will be uploading this to YouTube, if you're watching this and you have questions about anything we're discussing, drop it in the comments, and I will definitely answer them all, for the most part. Unless they're really weird and unanswerable. But yeah, so welcome aboard, everybody, and we are going to chat about superhero stuff. So, who's your favorite superhero?
Oh, man.
Doesn't matter, I don't care what universe or whatever.
I don't know. Like, that's the thing. I never really pick, like, one favorite. Like, who's your favorite band? Who's your favorite this? Like, okay, favorite for what? Okay, so, like, when I was little, the animated Batman series was what I grew up with. So, like, you know, animated Batman, Mark Hamill's Joker, Harley is, like, I love that because that's kind of, like, nostalgic. That's what I've known my whole life. But at the same time, like, what Marvel's done in the Avengers, like, that is astounding. And actually, like, when I kind of got into, like, superheroes and stuff as they were doing that, like, I remember when Iron Man came out, but I wasn't into, like, I was aware of them, obviously, because, like, growing up with the series, the movies, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I didn't know what Nick Fury showing up in the end of Iron Man necessarily meant. I just knew, like, oh, this is a big deal. And then I kind of like, oh, well, who's this? What's going on? And, like, I kind of started looking up, like, the background of it as they were putting out these movies. And so I almost, like, grew into the nerdiness with the first phase of Avengers. And, like, the build-up to the very first Avengers movie.
Okay,
so I don't really have a favorite because, I don't know, it's just, like, what mood am I? Are we talking favorite, like, if I could have their powers? Are we talking favorite character? Are we talking...
Yeah, favorite character. But you bring up, that was an interesting point you made, because you said, you know, Nick Fury coming in and you're going, okay, this has to be a big deal. And so you went and did some research to see...
It was just, like, I didn't really know what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
But just, like, you know, when it happens and the theater's like...
And you're like, why?
And I'm like, well, what's this guy's deal? Why is everyone so worked up about this?
See, and that's funny because, you see, there's a lot of things that I did, same thing, because I'd be like, I am very familiar with all the old, like the early comics and stuff. And so I had to look up, like, okay, so why is this guy now, like, why is Hawkeye now a bad guy kind of thing?
Yeah,
and then so I had to look up, like, okay, so that's all in the newer comics. So they did a really good job of blending to get, and I'm going to sound really old, and this may be even an ageist thing, I don't know, but they did a really good job of blending your generation's knowledge of the comics and all that with my generation. What we grew up with, because there's a lot of people my age that probably got into comics when they hit your age.
Yeah.
And so we don't know any of what's happened in the new world, and you guys don't know what happened in the past, like comics. Yeah. So they did a really good job of bringing that whole audience together.
Even Easter eggs. Like, even Easter eggs, like, obviously they redo the looks for them. But, like, in Captain Marvel, there was a thing where, like, the kid was choosing the colors, and it was, like, the color of, like, the original comic book Captain Marvel, or like the new Hawkeye, well, it's a year old already, but the Hawkeye series where, like, she gets the costumes made, and it's like, it's purple because it's the old comic book.
Exactly.
Like, just little things, or like little throwbacks to their traditional comic looks.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see, like, as an old guy, my biggest worry with superheroes, like the first Spider-Man movie. which I know Spider-Man isn't technically... The first ones aren't part of the MCU.
Well, they kind of are now.
They kind
Sort
of
of.
are now, but are and aren't. It's weird. Hey, Scott, welcome aboard. We are discussing Marvel today, dude. Scott used to work with Shannon and me
Oh, cool.
in Burlington, and we called him Dexter because he looks like Dexter from the TV show.
Ah.
Yeah, so that's what we're discussing, Marvel and superheroes and the MCU and all that fun stuff. If you have questions or want to join the conversation, by all means, just jump in there, dude. Can you see?
I can see that, yeah.
Perfect. Do you
Hi.
know what? It's so
Come
funny
on up.
because it wasn't until
Gonna
you
make a
mentioned
cameo?
this that I realized that, oh yeah, I can see chat and you can see chat.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I gotta tell you if someone has a question, but no, you can see it too. You can have a question.
Yeah, which is actually really good. Otherwise, I would be like doing the whole thing this way.
Yeah.
Which is not so great for.
No, that's cool. I had something set up, but I didn't realize it. Yeah, so they when they made the first Spider-Man movie, and my whole thing was I was so excited because they'd been talking about it for like a decade or two,
Yeah.
and it was the only way they could do it is because CGI even back then is kind of like but I was so anxious to see that because I am a huge Spider-Man fan, huge Spider-Man fan. So my biggest thing was, are they going to screw it up? And to me, and I know a lot of people will argue this because a lot of people did not like Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire is Spider-Man to me. He is Spider-Man. Now, Andrew Garfield, his Spider-Man was okay. Rib, I'm going to make you go down because you're
No more cameos.
When I was testing the mic last night, she was laying on my lap, and all you could hear was...
Is that you or me? Like, should I turn
That's
my
mine.
ringer off? Okay.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I'm like, I thought I turned everything off.
Yeah, I should. You know what? I don't have work. I don't have anybody, work calling me or anything. So, I'm just going to make sure there's no one important. No, I got nothing going on. So let me just turn my ringers off so I'm not being rude. So yeah, Tobey Maguire. Now, I know everyone, because when everyone looks at Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, they always look at Spider-Man 3, where he did the whole emo thing, and that's
but I mean,
all
the first two
were phenomenal.
I really liked them.
And then
I mean, again, look at the time. Look at where CGI was at the time. Okay, the casting. Again, it's weird watching it now, but at the time, casting 25-year-olds as teenagers was that's just what you did.
That's just normal.
That was
yeah.
okay. But at the time, that casting was normal, and they all did really good.
Yeah, But yeah, and everyone when you mention Spider-Man, they go, "Oh, Tobey Maguire's worse." That whole emo thing is you do realize
that was half an hour of one of 3 movies.
Not even a half an hour. That was probably 20 minutes where he walked down the streets.
You know what? The third one has me until he does the weird dance scene.
That's
That's when you're kind of okay.
Yeah, but and again, one small part of 3 big movies, but that's what everyone goes to. I'm you do realize there was River, no, you better go lay down.
Sorry, sweetie.
You go in the corner. Go in your spot. And that's what everyone seems to go to, and it's there was 2 more full movies. And it's everyone's favorite. I know, emo dancing Spider-Man, but
yeah.
Think about it. The first movie was 2.5 hours long-ish. The second movie was about the same. The third movie about the same. So what do you got? 7.5 hours, 8 hours of movie, roughly.
And it's that 2-minute scene.
And everyone focuses on that whole, I'll give it 15 minutes from the whole time he does the strut down the street and all that. So they take 15 minutes and that's their whole, Tobey Maguire's horrible. But now, Andrew Garfield, his Spider-Man was spot on with the humor.
Because they made him snarky. Spider-Man's supposed to be a bit of a smartass.
In the comics, and even if you look at the original Spider-Man cartoon, the 68 one, the one that I watched when I was a kid, and it wasn't reruns. Yeah, I'm old. When you watch them, Spider-Man always had something odd and goofy to say, and he always made smart-ass comments. And Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man had that to a degree, but Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was spot on with that. Oh no, what was it?
Oh no, my one weakness, tiny knives.
Tiny knives,
Yeah.
exactly.
Just let me go.
Is that a knife? Is that a real knife?
Yes, it's a real knife.
My weakness, it's small knives.
Just let me go.
Anything but knives! Oh, it's so simple. That was cool, man.
and that was such an embodiment of Spider-Man. But then his Peter Parker was horrible. I could not. And I like Andrew Garfield, but yeah, it was like no. But then.
And I found you didn't get to see, like, they kind of mentioned it in passing, but, like, a big part of, like, Peter Parker is he is smart. Like, he's almost on par with, like, I mean, obviously, like, he's much younger, but, like, if they had been the same age, like, if he had as much experience, he would be right up there with Banner and Stark.
Absolutely.
Like, he's a genius. And I found Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, they just kind of, there were, like, some throwaway lines, like, yeah, he's in the advanced class. Yeah, they're going to a lab for a field trip. But they didn't show him doing anything that showed how smart he was.
Exactly. And it was, and that's kind of one of the things. And then in the Tobey Maguire one, and again, I can't blame Tobey Maguire for it, because it's how Sam Raimi wanted it.
You can't blame actors
for
writing and directing decisions. Like, okay, I'm gonna go there. George Clooney is not the one that said, let's put nipples on the suit. Everything else aside.
Exactly.
Actors get a lot of the flack because they're the faces we see, but, like, they are a very small cog in a machine.
Well, and that's just it. So, everyone complained about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man because they're like, he grew web shooters. And they're like, no, Spider-Man made his. And Sam Raimi defended that by saying, you know what, he just didn't see a kid being smart enough to make something strong enough to hold a car up and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I can see that direction, but...
Especially where, like, he's always, like, broke. Like, that's another big thing, too. So, like, to get the materials that are strong enough, obviously Stark could do it because he has, like, carbon fiber and vibranium and whatever. Like, like, they showed Tom Holland's Spider-Man getting, like, motherboards out of dumpsters.
Yeah.
Like, where's he gonna find the tools? I kind of understand that. Not necessarily, like, he's not smart enough to do it, but, like, given his age and his position, where's he getting this stuff?
Well, and that's just it. And, was it Garfield who stole the web fluid from, Reptile Guy? One of them took the formula from, oh god, why can't I remember which one it was? It was either Garfield's or it was Tom Holland. I think it was Garfield's character that...
It was Garfield.
Yeah, because they had all the spiders.
We haven't had the lizard in Holland's universe yet. So the lizard was definitely Garfield. Yeah,
they had that whole room with all the spiders making that, and he stole their formula for their high strength, whatever.
That being said, just as a character, I like Gwen Stacy a hell of a lot more than MJ. Old MJ. New MJ is... I'm giving her a chance, but comparing, like, Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 girlfriends, I'm Team Gwen.
Team Gwen.
All the first MJ really did was, like, get captured and scream. Gwen's smart. Gwen does stuff.
True. In the comics, though, later on, Gwen, wait a minute.
Yeah, because after, like, there is, in some of the comics, after Mary Jane, like, dies or they break up, or something, like, Gwen Stacy is his next...
Yeah.
Is it 2 or 3? They actually... It ended up not working out, but, like, there's...
In the third
there is a blonde that, like,
has
one line, and apparently, like, that character was, like, she was cast as Gwen Stacy in case they wanted to use her later.
Yeah.
But, of course, they switched everything up, and it never came to, but there's, like, a blonde that has, like, one line, and apparently the idea was eventually that, like, Gwen Stacy would be introduced to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Yeah, that was the first Spider-Man's, but it was Bryce Dallas Howard. Thanks for the lurk, Skull. He did make his in science class. That's what Tom Holland did. They showed more of Spider-Man and Peter Parker's character with Tom Holland's. The reason that I'm a big Tobey fan is because being the biggest Spider-Man fan you'll find, seriously, he was the first live-action Spider-Man that worked. He was the one who brought it to the big screen, and he will always be Spider-Man to me. Again, Andrew Garfield, really like, but Tom Holland, they wrote him, both sides of his hit everything right on the spot.
Mhm.
They made him smart because Sam Raimi took that away by giving him built-in web shooters because he didn't think he'd be smart enough. Tom Holland made his. But yeah.
Wasn't there a thing, like, at the time, it was around one of, like, you know how every so often they do almost like a company-wide reboot with, like, a new universe?
Yeah.
Wasn't the movie going into reproduction around the same... I read something about, like, the reboot at the time was going to have him have organic webs. So that's basically why why the overseers greenlit it. Was like, okay, yeah, you're not completely messing things up.
Oh, no, see, I didn't...
I don't know. I might be wrong. This is just a blurb I read somewhere with, like, you know, reading about Spider-Man and comic book origins and stuff. It's like, apparently there is, like, one line of comic books where he has the organic webbing, and it was, like, coming around the same time as the first Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. Bryce Dallas Howard. Who's that, people?
She's the one from Jurassic World.
Oh, right. See, when I see Bryce, I think Guy. Because I grew up, I knew a couple Bryces.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in the Gwen in the original Spider-Man's, that was in 3 when he took her to the bar that Mary Jane worked at.
Yeah.
And tried to do the whole jealous thing.
Yeah.
Which was totally...
Again, that's one of the other... Everyone hates that. There's a reason everyone hates the third one.
Yeah. But yeah, so then you have the Spider-Man. I could talk about Spider-Man all freaking day. I love Spider-Man.
We're gonna have to change the caption.
So, Beefall, welcome aboard. Is it Skullful? That's Adele, by the way. Skullful Deli is Adele.
Okay, hi.
She's up the hall. She's got, same as I have her tabbed up. Mm-hmm. She has me tabbed up and working. So we're discussing Marvel and the MCU and superheroes and all that fun stuff. If you have questions, you want to join in the conversation, by all means, we can see all your comments and everything, and we will try to answer them. And again, anyone watching this VOD, when I post it up on YouTube, any questions or whatever, drop it into the comments. Cool. So Spider-Man has always been the start of the MCU, but when they did the first Hulk movie with
Eric Bana.
Eric Bana, yeah. I liked it. I thought it was okay. Then they did Iron Man. Iron Man, that changed everything. Right from the first preview when I saw Iron Man, and of course they used the Black Sabbath Iron Man.
And what's amazing, and kind of just goes to show you, like, even from the start, Marvel just had, like, great casting, great production, great teams behind the scenes. Like, when they started filming, like, the script was only, like, half written. They were really, like, making scripts up the morning of filming. Like, that movie, and, you know, Robert Downey Jr., his reputation at the time, that movie could have bombed. That movie could have been such a disaster, and instead we got today's MCU. Like,
yeah. They bet like everything basically on Robert Downey Jr.
They bet the farm on the horse and the pony pulled through.
Yep.
Like, but that's true. Robert Downey Jr., like, he's one of those perfect examples of, like, born to play that role.
I can't picture... Now, I know we say that now because he's been Iron Man.
But, I mean, if things had happened, like, we say, like, oh, well, Hugh Jackman is Wolverine.
Yeah.
They actually, I mean... There's, like, almost no footage of him. He quit 1 week in. But, like, Wolverine originally was a different actor, and he quit to do something else, and Hugh Jackman was, like, their second pick. And now Hugh Jackman is iconic. So, we say no one else could be Wolverine, but, like, that's only because we don't know anything else.
And that's just it.
It's like, if you only ever eat cheeseburgers, you're going to say your favorite food's cheeseburgers.
Yes, true.
We don't have anything to compare it to. But
if
there's a difference between being really, really good in a role and being spectacular in a role.
Being born for a role.
Yeah.
I mean, RDJ was just, I mean, he had a couple hits because he did Sherlock. So he was back on the rise. His career and...
Wasn't Sherlock a little after?
Or Sherlock
Iron
was
Man?
after, but what did he do?
Because Iron Man was kind of like the second breath to his career.
Saw them filming the Statue of Liberty scene in Burlington from X-Men 1.
Cool.
Oh, cool, Scott. That is cool. That was before I moved to Ontario. But yeah, so, I mean, and Robert Downey Jr., love your man, but like in case you happen to come across this video, I love you, but yeah, I mean his career, he came up, and then he had his thing, and then he came up, and I don't want to call it a comeback because he just kept fighting. But I don't know how he did it. He must have read all the comics of Iron Man, because he literally on that screen was Tony Stark.
Yeah.
The arrogance, the attitude, the I'm a billionaire, I'll do whatever I want.
I'm smarter than you.
That was Tony Stark. That was in the comics that I read. That, and the way he played it.
Tony Stark is like the golden example of the charismatic asshole.
Absolutely.
Like, he is like the perfect example.
He is. And then so he starts the whole MCU. And any movie company out there watching this, find yourselves a Kevin Feige.
Yes. Everyone needs a Bible keeper.
Because regardless of actors, directors, and writers, if it wasn't for him, that wouldn't have worked.
They need someone to keep all the little details apart. And I'm really bad for this. Like, I mean, it's kind of a joke now that, like, Joey's shirt magically changing color every 5 minutes in Friends.
Yeah.
Because nobody was keeping track of what he was wearing that day.
Yeah.
Or, like, there's another show, like, in season 2, they mentioned they're allergic to oranges, but then in season 7, they order orange chicken. And I'm like, wait, you already established. They need like, every show needs, like, a Bible keeper to keep those, like, little details straight, so you're not contradicting yourself.
Exactly.
And considering how many of them were filming and, like, in pre-production at the same time.
Yeah, and this is what boggles my mind about the MCU. Everything about those 23 movies should have failed.
Yeah.
It should not. I mean, each movie in itself would have worked, but altogether, that should have been one huge failure, because different directors filmed at different times, way out of chronological order.
Oh, yeah.
With some of them, like the early ones in Phase 1 only had, like Iron Man had one storyline.
Or like Guardians of the Galaxy. Remember when that was a big deal? Because like it all been like, well, it was after Avengers, so we had like Iron Man, Hulk, Thor. That's another thing. Like, everyone thought Marvel was like really rolling the dice, casting like 2 completely unknown actors as Thor and Loki, and now they're like worldwide stars.
Yeah, and
But and then like they announced the next ones, and it's like, okay, yeah, we got like Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Thor 2, this one, and Guardians of the Galaxy. And again, being a new comic nerd, was like, who are they? Okay.
Old comic nerd, who are they? That was something new.
They're in space. There's a talking raccoon. They're in space. A green assassin chick. How's this gonna? And I think that's pretty much what everyone was asking. Was like, how are these guys at all related to this universe? Like, again, that could have been, and they killed it.
And they Scott, a good point. A lot of people, when they announced Chris Evans as Captain America, they're like, oh my god. And all they thought about was Fantastic. Now, I love Fantastic Four.
I think people like to, like... I mean, you know how fandoms... We've talked about this a little bit. How, like, fandoms can get, like, toxic almost.
Oh, my God.
And I think there's
a
lot of... It's really easy, especially with the MCU being as good as it is. It's really easy to be like, oh, this movie sucked. This movie sucked. Like, yeah, if we were to, like, watch Fantastic Four in the same context as we were watching, like, you know, Civil War and Infinity War, like, of course it's not going to hold up. Yeah. But for the time, think about it. Awesome. Look at where the special effects were at the time. Look at, you know, movie casting trends at the time.
Anybody, by the way, if you can hear that in the background, that's Adele. She's streaming.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she's a little loud.
But like, it really was up until, I'd argue a little bit with Wolverine in the first X-Men trilogy. But it really wasn't until like Iron Man that you could have, or Dark Knight. I also think Dark Knight trilogy kind of revolutionized. Maybe a little too much, because now they cut the lighting budgets. But like, you can make darker, like broody, Like,
Yeah.
up until the early 2000s, superhero movies, like, look at the first 4 Batman movies, like Val Kilmer, and, you know, superhero movies were campy, fun.
Yep.
Like, that's what they were. So you can't really, it's easy to say now, oh, that superhero movie sucked. But at the time, you know, I remember enjoying Spider-Man and, you know, like, Fantastic Four at the time. A movie's sole job is to entertain you. So, you, like, at the time they came out, they weren't bad movies. We've just evolved.
Well, and that's just it. Like, I can go back and look at anything that I watched when I was a kid. I don't recommend doing that, guys. If you have something you watched when you were a kid and you thought was phenomenal, when you hit 30, 40, 50,
Don't do
don't
it.
go, because it'll ruin it for you. I used to watch, actually, all of us as kids. We used to get up every Saturday morning. We watched a show called Giant Robot. It was Japanese. It was dubbed in. It was about a little kid, Johnny Sacco, who had total control over this giant robot who fought monsters, sort of like Godzilla sort of thing. But as a kid, we thought that was the most awesome thing. Well, about 10 years ago, my brother was down the States and he saw, I think it was like the first season on VHS. Oh no, God, we were more than 10 years ago than 20 years ago. And he bought it for me and I put it in and I watched it. And it was
What is
so
this?
cheesy and the effects were so
Yeah.
horrible. And you could tell it was a man in a robot, almost cardboard robot suit. And I'm like, oh, God. So, yeah, but you can't compare. And that's the thing. Like, if you
Just
look
even
back,
when you look at how far filmmaking techniques have come, like, obviously they're gonna be different tonally because we've come up with, like, so many more ways of shooting, and, like, it's interesting how, like, Hollywood trains you, like, oh, this angle means this thing, this
Yeah.
music means this. Like, Hollywood really has people, like, we are Hollywood's Pavlov dog.
oh, yeah.
They know exactly how to get us to feel how they want us to feel.
Well,
But those things change over time.
Well, and it's true because if you look at, if I were to show you The Matrix today, and it was the first
Yeah.
time you watched it, you'd be like, hey, that's kind of cool. But when that movie came out in the, what they
Considering
call a bullet,
nobody understood how the internet worked, a bunch of green scatter on a screen was like, ooh, the
and then
network.
bullet time, where he could
Yeah.
dodge the bullets, and that was something they invented for that movie.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was like, holy crap, did you see that? But now when you watch it, you go, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
this
you know, I see it in a lot of movies now. So yeah, we tend to do that because.
Mhm.
But if you've never seen it, that's what your whole reaction to bullet time would be like, oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, cool.
It's like if you were to show someone any of the MCU. So see, oh, that's my bot. So my bot, by the way. So just a quick introduction again for those of you who weren't here right first. My guest today is Kate.
Hi, again.
And she is new to my stream. I've known, how long? 4 years now? 3 years? Oh, it was 2019, so
yeah,
3
it was
years.
2019. It would be
2019.
3 years now.
Yeah. And yeah, but this is her first time coming onto my stream.
Any stream.
Any stream.
Any stream.
Any stream.
Yeah.
This is her first time on a stream.
Hello, Internet.
Hello, Internet. She's out there now for everybody.
Yes.
But yeah, and so my bot is called Daddy Drake 13.
Yeah.
And the story behind that, just in case, I probably told you, but for those of you who don't know, I was in someone's stream one night and someone called me Daddy Drake. Someone called me Daddy, and then someone called me Daddy Drake, and then everyone started calling me Daddy Drake. And I go into a completely random stream, and I'd say hi to a streamer, and like 2 people go, Daddy Drake's here. And I'm like, oh my God. So it stuck with me, and I can't find, I have a mug here somewhere with Daddy Drake on it. I don't know where it got to. But yeah, so it stuck. And so when I was creating my bot account for my bot, I made the bot Daddy Drake. And that's what it is. But yeah, so back to what we were talking about, my mind goes random when I'm on, well actually it doesn't work too.
I know
jump,
it, yeah.
I jump subjects and stuff.
Take away the camera, this is how we are at work.
This is how we are at work.
With, like, getting a little bit of work done in between.
Very true.
Yeah, so I know, like, the scatterbrain, the ping pong balls, this
Yeah.
is This is literally just how we talk.
But yeah, so when you compare anything today to what you watched, 20 years ago, you kind of go, yeah, okay, yeah, they suck, but at the time,
Yeah.
it was friggin' like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you can compare would be just plain old dramas.
Yeah.
Because if there's no CGI and it's all just, some makeup and blood effects and drama, that you can compare anytime. You can compare a 60s to a 2000 because
like mob
it's
movies
acting.
haven't
Yeah.
really changed
No,
as much the way that like superhero or action movies have.
exactly. No, you can't.
Like a
be
drama's
on
a
that
drama.
side. You purr too loud and then you drown me out. You can sit there. But yeah, so getting back to Marvel, so they introduced Iron Man.
Yeah.
And that, like you said, that could have been...
That movie, by all means, should have been, like, a massive flop. They had the script half finished. There was, like,
Two things saved it. One was the effects. Not gonna lie, the effects. Seeing an actual flying suit of armor, and it looked real. And Robert Downey Jr.'s acting. That's what saved that. And, God, why can't I think of his name? I go blank. Happy.
Oh,
I know.
There's the two that start with F. It's Kevin Feige
And Kevin...
it's Feige and...
Because he was in Friends. I watched him...
He's in a lot of stuff. Like, I was actually watching a movie just a month ago, like, not related to MCU or anything, and he's just...
Hey, Google.
Not like a star. He's in it for, like, 5 minutes, but he's in it.
Who played Happy in Iron Man?
Favreau!
Logan was played by Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau.
I
Yeah.
beat Google.
Stop. There we go.
It looks like Xbox is unavailable
No,
right now.
stop listening. But yeah, so... Hey, Wicked! Welcome aboard! Wicked Wax is from... Oh, God. New York? He's very 420 friendly. He plays all kinds of cool games. He's pretty cool, dude.
Cool. Hi.
Rochester. Yeah, I knew it was New York. I was just like, am I going to say the wrong place? But yeah. He's a cool dude. Welcome aboard, dude. We're talking Marvel and the MCU and not New York City, no. But yeah, so like those are the two things that saved Iron Man. And then they did the Hulk. And the Hulk only fits in the MCU to bring him into the Avengers.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing in that Hulk movie
That carries over.
that carries over into any of them. And I think they only included it just to introduce Hulk into the Avengers.
Yeah.
Because they literally... Well, you don't even see the Hulk until... Actually, you don't even see the Hulk until the Avengers movie.
That's true. Between the second Hulk movie and Avengers, nothing happened.
Nothing... Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot take, X-Men movies are better than MCU. X-Men movies are MCU now.
Yeah, didn't they just get the rights back or something?
Yeah, because Disney now owns Fox.
Fox, who had the X-Men.
Has the X-Men.
Which is why they would, like, reboot it every so often. Apparently there was a deal, like, in the X-Men thing that if they didn't prove that a film was in pre-production after a certain amount of time, like, the rights would revert back to Marvel. And then when this was before they had their own movie studio. And now that Marvel Studio was a thing, then... Like, they were like, oh crap, we got it. Like, they basically just had Hugh Jackman on retainer and were like, we can just churn out Wolverine movies when we need to.
Oh, yeah.
It was so the rights, like, they could keep making X-Men movies, otherwise the rights would revert back to Marvel, who now has their own in-house movie studio.
Yeah.
But that's why they kind of, like, almost like, there was a while where it was like every 3 years, like clockwork, there was an X-Men movie.
Of some sort, yeah.
Or that's pretty much why, that Wolverine, not Origins, but the one where he's in Japan, that was pretty much a right holder movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Edward Norton was before Avengers, but after Iron Man. And the problem that they had was Edward Norton...
He wanted too much production control.
Yeah, he was a diva, basically. And so they kind of wrote him out, and they brought in Mark Ruffalo, who, in my opinion, just fit. It's weird how they found people to fit every part, that as soon as...
Yeah, like, you not only had to crush your individual movies, and that's the other thing, I think Edward Norton, having that reputation as being, like, a control freak or a diva, he would not have been a team player once the Avengers Assemble came around. And I think that's the other reason they recast. Not just he wanted the production control, they needed a team.
Yeah. And that's what they wanted, people that would actually get along.
Mm-hmm.
And Edward Norton, he's notorious for not being a team player. Now, was he excellent as Bruce Banner in The Hulk? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Man's a great actor.
He's a great actor. He's done some of his best movies, like, was it Fear? No, not Fear. Wow. My mind went blank. Where he's accused of murdering and, oh shit, what's the name of that called? But he did that one. He did another movie called Heist with, Robert De Niro and Marlon Brando, which was wicked.
Mm.
And so the guy is a phenomenal actor, but he's just notorious for not getting along with people. And then they brought in Mark Ruffalo and said, yeah, there was disagreements between Marvel and Edward Norton. That's why they recast it, because Norton wanted to rewrite everything. He was trying to pull a Shatner. I want the most screen time. I want the most lines. I want the headlines. Whereas all the current actors, I mean, they did write their own deals and stuff, but none of them said, I'm more important than this guy. None of them went and said, well, I want more than him because I'm more of a headliner, I'm more famous. None of them did that. They all worked together.
Mm-hmm. And I think it kind of shows, and I mean, this is more of, like, the production and movie making end, but the fact that, like, you kind of forget Civil War was technically a Captain America movie. Like,
I know.
Everyone I know kind of culturally became, like, Avengers 2.5.
Exactly.
Like, everyone forgets that there's actually, like, a third Captain America movie. It's like, no, wait, are there 4 or 5 Avenger movies?
Well, and that's the thing, because when they did Civil War, because Civil War is part of the Captain America storyline, but when they did that, and of course the way they presented the movies only had all the superheroes together when it was an Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm.
But what made this different was, even though they were all together, they weren't fighting a big baddie, they were fighting each other.
Mm-hmm. And
that, but it worked. And then they still all get along in the next movie, because Civil War was after Ultron.
Yes.
Yeah, and then so the next one would have been
Infinity War. Yeah, because when Infinity War picks up, Black Widow and Captain America are on the run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when you look at all the, we talk about this at work all the time, guys. How when you've got 23 movies that all fit, no matter which order you watch them in, you know what's going on, even if you've never seen them before. And it's mind-boggling that it works.
Mm.
And I'm gonna talk a little about DC here, and I'm not dissing DC. I love superheroes. I am a Marvel fan, diehard Marvel fan, but superheroes, if they're done right, like Batman. Not the last Batman movie. I'll talk about that later. But Batman, I think Batman is DC's Iron Man.
Oh yeah.
Billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
His superpowers are being rich and smart.
That's what it is. Because Iron Man is nothing without the armor. He's just really, really intelligent.
Yeah.
Batman is really, really intelligent, but he has the criminal, not the criminal mind, but he's good at the problem solving and the...
Yeah,
he's basically,
especially retro Batman when he was still a detective and not an action hero.
Yeah, because he was more of... Batman is more of a Tony Stark, Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, actually,
That's what I'm trying to think of. Wicked detective skills. So he's more your Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, he's like
intelligent.
an investigator.
Yeah, and then because Tony Stark can't fight, that's why he's got the armor to do all his battling for him. He just tells the AI, right?
Yeah.
But Batman now, there's different versions of Batman too. I mean, you can go back to the campy Adam West Batman. Those were awesome. I can still watch those. Bat fanatic right there. So you're a Batman fanatic. Now, so here's something really cool that you may not notice until I tell you, and you go, oh yeah. If you watch the Adam West Batman show, anytime there's a villain on the screen, the camera turns.
Huh.
The camera is always angled when they show a villain. That's how, yeah. And until I read that somewhere, and I went back and looked, and I was like, damn, I never noticed that as a... Hey, gamer, welcome aboard. So, yeah, and that's one. And then Tim Burton's Batman.
Yeah.
They were more of a homage to the Adam West Batman. They were campy.
Yeah, they were
cheesy.
still campy and fun.
They were very campy. And it annoys me, okay, we've gone off the Marvel here for a minute, but it really annoys me when people say Heath Ledger's Joker was so much better than Jack Nicholson's Joker.
It's
That's
like
an apple and an
apples
orange.
and oranges.
It totally is. Jack Nicholson's Joker is a throwback to the Adam West Joker. He's goofy and corny.
He's literally the clown of crime.
The clown prince. That's what they
Yeah.
did.
So, like,
and
Nicholson's leaned a little more on the clown aspect. Ledger's leaned a little more on the crime and anarchy.
Because Ledger's is based more on the graphic novels and the Dark Batman.
That's
where he's more criminal and more violent and everything. And the one thing that separates DC from Marvel is the fact that Marvel, even for the most part, I mean, there's Spawn and there's a couple of them, like Punisher and whatnot, that aren't, but any Marvel comic, they're bright, they're colorful, there's humor, and the movies are all like that. DC, and it's just because of the way they're done, DC is dark. DC's more, not so much on the humor side, they're more a serious comic. So, you really can't, this is why when people say like DC's better than Marvel, that's like saying night's better than day. It's really more about your personality, and not saying that people that like DC are horrible people, but I like the light and comic side of Marvel, and it's bright.
Yeah.
And that's where DC kind of needs to figure out for their movies, because everyone now is so used to Marvel and the humor and the brightness.
That's why Justice League worked. They just used the Avengers template. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. We like Avengers. We like DC superheroes. Plug them into an Avengers-shaped movie. It was a good movie.
It was okay.
It was fun.
It was okay. The only problem I have with Justice League...
I might get some people angry here, but I liked the theatrical version better than Snyder's.
I haven't watched Snyder's yet. I do have to, so I can compare the two.
He literally... The only difference I noticed, Superman had the black suit, he took out all the funny banter, and there's like a 20-minute-long dream sequence. That makes no sense if you are not a comic book nerd and don't know what the dream sequence means. Anyone who is like not a comic book nerd is just like 20-minute dream sequence.
Yeah. Well, and see, now my take on it was they jumped in, they did Batman vs. Superman, then they did Wonder Woman, and then they went right into a Justice League. And they needed a couple more movies to introduce Flash. They should have did Aquaman
Aquaman
first.
should have been before Justice League.
Yeah. Because
And that would have made a lot of sense too, because like in Justice League, he already like has the armor and the trident and everything. Like, isn't the whole point of Aquaman like he didn't know so much about that world, and like he went and like basically became the prince of...
Yeah.
So like, wait a minute. And like I actually had this thought watching Aquaman. Because there's literally only one line. They literally would have only had to reshoot like one scene in that whole movie, and it could have taken place before Justice League. There's like something where Mara, the lady,
Yeah, Mara.
Mara, yeah, she says something like, "You helped defeat Steppenwolf" or something, and I'm like, oh, so this definitely takes place after. But then there's this whole scene of like him getting the armor and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like, wait, what was he wearing in Justice League then?
Steppenwolf
Like
looks...
that, literally, they would have just had to like cut that one line. Would not have even questioned it. That one line makes your head do the somersaults.
Steppenwolf looks cooler in the Snyder Cut, in your opinion. I haven't watched the Snyder Cut
I'm gonna
yet.
have to look at them side by side.
All right. It's Google time.
Google time. What do we got?
But now when you watch the first Avengers movie, because who's in the first Avengers movie? You have Iron Man. You do have Black Widow.
Hawkeye.
You have Hawkeye,
Hulk, Captain America.
Hulk, and Captain America, and Thor. They've all been introduced in Phase 1. So you've already... Now, mind you, you may say, well, yeah, people who read comics know who they all are anyways. But, see, Marvel, and again, Kevin Feige, he set this thing out where we're going to introduce the characters.
Oh, yeah. He looks way more villainous in the...
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay, so yeah, Steppenwolf was a step up.
Yeah. But, yeah, so... If you watch Phase 1, if you actually watch any of the Marvel standalones leading up to each Avengers movie, there's, except for the first Iron Man, until they did the cutout, the credit scene, the end credit scene, each one of those movies has their own storyline. Then there's a second storyline that leads to the first Avengers movie.
Yeah, isn't there
But then there's a third storyline that is building up through all of them right up to Endgame.
Isn't there like it's almost like an Easter egg that like every movie has like a hint of the next movie released?
Yeah.
Like Iron Man 2, he's like building the atom and he like uses the prototype of the shield to prop something up.
Yeah.
The next movie being released was Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And then in Thor, there's like just like a quick snippet of something that happened. Like there's like a hint in each movie of which one is the next to be released.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
And then they do the end credit thing.
Yeah.
Which introduce and that's why if you watch them, there's a scene right after, like when the movie ends, then they roll the credits where they list the main actors. Then there's a scene. Then they do all the credits, and then there's another scene.
And then sometimes another.
And then sometimes another.
What was it? What movie was it? Was it one of the Guardians of the Galaxy had like 4 or 5?
Yeah,
It was crazy.
But and when you watch them and you go, there's this underlying story leading to each Avengers movie. In each one, so in Phase 2, it's leading up to Ultron. And there's all these little Easter eggs and hints in the end credits and everything. But then there's another thing going on, so they're hinting at Endgame. And it's mind-boggling how you can intertwine basically 3 storylines in one movie. Or actually, not even one movie, in like 20 movies. Well, actually, it'd be
23.
It'd be 19 because there's 4 Avengers movies.
Right.
Yeah. Iron Man 1, he's drinking that green juice that they mentioned in Iron Man 2. Oh, is that the juice that helps him from...
Oh yeah, he has a robot that constantly makes him smoothies because the arc reactor was like poisoning him or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and... Yeah, that's it. The, where's my thing here? Let me pull this up. So,
there we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
So these are... Let me pull that up. I'm gonna change the screen here for a sec.
Yeah, so like in Iron Man 3, Coulson has a throwaway line about having business in New Mexico, which ties into, or Iron Man Thor, ties into Thor. Like everyone had like a hint of what the next theatrical release would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's one of the really cool things that Marvel did is they did this. So not only did they have the movies going on, they had, if you wanted to, you could go and watch them, and then after you watch one, watch season 1 and 2. So watch Captain America, watch seasons 1 and 2 of Agent Carter. And then if you have Disney Plus, which I highly recommend getting Disney Plus, especially now, you got your Agent Carter one-shot, which is actually on the Iron Man Blu-ray. Then you have Captain Marvel, Ding 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 Down. Then The Consultant, which is another one-shot on the Thor thing. And then a funny thing happened on the way to Thor. So they intertwined all these shorts and then the TV shows, because if you scroll down over here, then you've got like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then, Daredevil from the Netflix series.
Yeah.
So they ended up tying
all of it
together. And my biggest worry about the new, because we're in this is phase 4 that we're in now?
4 or 5?
I lost track of what phase we're in.
Yeah.
Because there was 1, and then Avengers, 2, and then Ultron, then 3 was Endgame, Infinity War and Endgame. So yeah, we're in phase 4.
We're in 4 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to keep track because there's so many. And my biggest problem that I was going to have at phase 4 was, they already introduced the big guns. They already introduced Iron Man. And I said this when I tweeted out that I was doing the show today. There's going to be some spoilers, so if you haven't watched Endgame or any of that, sorry.
But also, it's been like 4 years.
It's been 4 years, so yes. But they introduced Iron Man. Iron Man died. Black Widow died. Vision's gone. Now, if you watch Disney, there's WandaVision. That's a whole other thing. Who else? No, Loki survived. I'm trying to think. But anyways, they introduced all their big guns. And then my biggest thing was, well, who are they going to use in phase 4? Captain America retired.
Now there's a new one.
And so I was like, they might have killed themselves for any future, but then they did the Disney release with, what was the first one they put out there? Oh, WandaVision was the first one. Which I thought was really odd at first, but then I saw where it went, and I was like, okay. Then if you watch all the What Ifs on Disney, and watch... the
What Ifs were really good.
The What Ifs...
Like, that What If series, loved it.
Yes.
And I okay, again, might be some spoilers. I was literally watching it as, like, a series of one-offs. It wasn't until the last episode when it all started coming together, and I'm just like...
And that's
it was so good!
It was so good. And the cool thing is, as I'm watching these, because I mentioned to you, like, have you watched Ms. Marvel? And you're like, I think either just started...
I'm only 3 episodes in.
Yeah. It takes a bit of getting used to.
Yeah.
But I can see where that's going to tie into the phase 4. Hawkeye, I see where that's going. I haven't finished watching Moon Knight yet.
I haven't finished that one either. I'm a little not sure what's going on in Moon Knight. I'm like, wait,
it's hard to follow.
Like, there's like this like Egyptian god and an avatar, and then like another like the two god. I'm like,
I'm finding it.
Is
hard
this guy's
focus.
Superpower mental illness?
I know.
Like, this is not a.
I know. And
this does not fit the theme of like anything else. I'm like, how's this guy? Like, he's just coming out of left field.
I know, and that I'm having a hard time. I will finish it though because it fits in. And then what was it? Falcon and Winter Soldier. That I love that one. She-Hulk. I see where that's going. And then if you haven't watched Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, highly recommend you watch that. And the Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
Is it No Way Home? Yeah.
No Way Home. They all have home in the title.
Yeah, they all have, yeah.
Spider-Man 1.3, 2.3, and 3.3.
But if you watch them, because it was Homecoming, and then Far From Home.
Yes, and then No Way Home.
And then No Way Home, yeah. But you can see, because I said, I was like, they'll never do it, but now I see how it's all tying together. So now I'm anxious for the next, because there's going to be another Avengers movie.
Oh yeah.
It's just not going to be the Avengers we had.
Yeah.
But odds are they're going to have Hulk in it still. Because She-Hulk is now on Disney. And She-Hulk, have you started watching it yet?
Yeah.
I'm
really
She-Hulk.
liking it. But also, like, Hulk's in space now. Like, what? Wait. There's going to be more coming up with Banner.
And this
like,
is it.
that's like, oh, what's Banner up to?
The Easter egg was the spaceship that started the...
Well, isn't
um,
Hulk and... Oh no, it was the Guardians were going to be in the next Thor movie. I'm like, aren't Hulk and Thor in the next Guardians movie? But weren't the Guardians in the new Thor movie?
Thor is in the new Guardians movie.
Okay.
But because he left with the Guardians.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He became
And-
like they're a new mini team now.
Yeah, but then you have Love and Thunder, which I haven't watched yet. That will be on Disney Plus soon.
Yeah.
I know that's coming. And so I see where they're going with this new MCU, and I'm like, okay, so they didn't lose me. Because, again, huge Marvel fan. And
What I'm going to be interested to see, like, you look at the two lists, you don't have to have watched all the shorts, you don't
No.
have to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to, like, you can come into the movies without having seen the TV show and stuff. I wonder if it's going to be, like, with Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, obviously Wanda just had a huge evolution in WandaVision. Are you going to be able to go from Endgame and No Way Home to Multiverse of Madness without having seen WandaVision and still be understandable? That's the challenge now. That is the challenge they are boxing themselves into. You don't want to get to a place where you are counting on everyone consuming all of your media. You should be able to watch the movies without having to read, like, the books and the TV shows and the backstories and the theory and, like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, there almost gets to be so much that it becomes, like, you need all the back knowledge to know what's going on in the other. That's my worry. Is, like, we are so far into this now that, like, for someone who's been, I don't know, like... yeah, that could be cool.
they, and that could be where he's going. But, see, with Wanda, there's hints of her going down that path after Endgame. Because she was...
Well, I mean,
she lost Vision.
right from her first introduction.
Yeah.
When did she become an Avenger? After Peter died. Or Pietro.
Yeah.
You know, it was her brother getting killed that made her turn on Ultron. You know,
Yeah.
she's always been very emotionally
Charged. Yeah.
charged, which, you know, it's kind of the root of her power. Like, it comes from an Infinity Stone, but again, now we know she actually maybe is a witch or sorceress. Magic exists now.
Yeah, that's a whole other discussion. We'll touch back on the whole magic thing here in a minute.
Yeah, so, like, she's always, her powers are almost directly tied to her emotional state. She's almost fueled by her rage and pain.
Yes. When you look at, so we've debated this at the store
Yes.
in detail, the magic existing. So
Because, like, and I'll kind of, like, you've heard this before, but I'll just kind of rehash. Like, you know, Iron Man built the suit. Captain America, serum. You know, various radioactive accidents. You know, Thor and the Guardian, aliens. And then Doctor Strange came in and, like, yeah, magic, but... And again, we found out that was rooted in an Infinity Stone. That's still kind of... But now it's like, everyone, all the new Marvel things are like, magic. Like, Miss Marvel, magic. Moon Knight, maybe, may or may not, some kind of magic.
but
What's the other one now? WandaVision, like, actually, like, witches actually exist now, and she's a combination of science experiment and an actual sorceress. Like, they kind of went from, like, all, like, technologically science-related superpower to now it's like, everybody has magic powers, and it's like, this is, to me, it's a pretty big shift.
I keep getting these weird calls from, like, England and stuff. But now my thing is, it's always existed. It's always been there. But I mean, they're calling it magic because that's what everyone wants to call it. But isn't it the same as like a mutant? Like
But
the,
see,
mutant, the mutant
mutants,
who could teleport.
because of copyright, mutants have not existed in the MCU. That's why they were science experiments, not mutants, because they couldn't use the term mutant because X-Men was still licensed.
True. So,
So,
okay,
again, as far in the current MCU as we know it, mutants do not exist. But I kind of understand what you're saying.
mhm.
And
But they did. They were doing their own thing,
Mm.
and it's kind of like the first superhero created the first supervillain.
exactly, which actually kind of we were talking. This goes like way back, like half an hour ago in our conversation. But almost, if you look at like Marvel villains, they're almost just a mirror of the hero of that movie.
Yeah.
Like Thor fights another super strong alien. All of Iron Man's enemies just have like their own version, like everything from Obadiah to Mickey Rourke to like it's all just
Yeah.
other versions of
The
like
tech
they steal or otherwise adapt his technology, and he ends up fighting his own. You know, even Hulk and Abomination, like it's all seems like the two sides of the coin, the mirror image. One's the superhero, one's the supervillain, even though they have like the same powers and stuff. DC usually has, I find, so you asked what my favorite hero and stuff was at the beginning. I can't answer that still, but I almost feel like I might favor Marvel heroes, but DC has better villains.
That's because of our classic sense of the word villain.
I guess.
When you see a Marvel villain,
And maybe Marvel villains aren't the right term. They're antagonists.
yeah, because
They might not be a villain on like a worldwide scale. Like you're only bothering Tony Stark, but it's Tony's movie, so you're the bad guy.
and that's just it. But even the Marvel villains are bright and colorful,
Mm.
and I won't say happy.
I mean,
but,
Thanos is purple and hunting down jewelry for crying out loud.
yeah, but when you look at the DC villains, I mean, they are okay. Take away the Adam West versions of them, but the Joker is a psychopath.
Yeah.
The Penguin is a psychopath. They're all. I hate to use the word crazy because I know there's stigma with that, but they all suffer from they have some sort of mental illness,
Mhm.
and it makes them scary.
But even
Like if I ran into
Batman
say,
Begins, Scarecrow. He technically like he put the mask on, like he was technically like, you know, the villain, like
Mhm.
Scarecrow, for like what, the last 15 minutes of the movie?
yeah,
From the very beginning, like the first scene he's in. It's interesting.
yeah,
So like even before he was like the big bad guy, there's something off about that dude, you know?
Yeah,
Like their
and
villains are a little more complex.
the DC villains are darker, and that's why we can relate more to them because they're more of what. When you say villain, you think someone who will you don't want to run into in a back alley.
Murder sprees and crime
Yeah.
rampage.
Like if I ran into, say the Green Goblin in an alley,
yeah.
although intimidating looking, he would probably freak me out more than scare me. If I ran into, hey,
I like
Shell.
Remember, in No Way Home, he's like, I don't know, some kind of green elf?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and then if you ran into the Joker in an alley with the cut face and the makeup because you always wear, and I'm talking the Heath Ledger Joker, you'd be like, holy fuck, get me out of here. Because and that's of course Stream is acting. Oh no, on my end or on your end, Shell? Shell is in Victoria.
cool.
Welcome aboard, Shell. This is Kate. We work together. Not sure what's up. It's always acts up in the mornings. Oh, might be your internet. It's so funny when off topic. We watched one of Adele's clips from Stream, and she's all on her own. It's me. It always does this every morning. Okay, and she's running around in a building trying to shoot people, and she's just singing a little song as she goes. She's just in her own little world. It's funny as hell. Yeah, so we're talking Marvel, and we initially it was MCU, but we're kind of
Hi.
Drake's coworker. But yeah, we ended up we're kind of doing a comparison of DC, but we're not tearing apart. Like we're not saying DC.
I mean, we
sucks.
both like both.
I
You
like
know what?
superheroes.
Okay, you know how like Star Alliance. Like, oh, are you Star Trek or Star Wars? It's like, well, I like both. The Star Alliance, right? We are the Super Alliance.
Yeah,
we like both.
I like both. I like a good superhero story. Like again, Batman is probably my favorite DC superhero. Superman is my least favorite. And the reason I say that is because nothing can kill him. Kryptonite is his only weakness. Well, kryptonite and apparently magic, which is weird. I don't even know if that even exists in the newer comics, but if you go back and look at the older Superman comics, Mr. Mixoplexer, what I can't even say his name. It's all these letters combined together, but he did magic and stuff, and it's kind of like Green Lantern has no power against yellow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like...
But isn't it like each of the lanterns is a different color? So like Green Lantern is weak to yellow, but like Black Lantern's weak to a different color, and like White Lantern's weak to like a different one.
I didn't know there was other colors, because it's like the Green Lantern Corps.
Well, there's other lantern suits.
Well, is it Davros? The evil Green Lantern? They never did... See, I wish Deadpool is better. Well,
again, apples and oranges. Deadpool's a league of his own. Like, but Deadpool, obviously, like the new, not Wolverine Origins, but like the Deadpool that we are getting now is like exactly what Deadpool is meant to be. Like,
yeah, a guy with some mental illness problems. I hate Batman. Not so fond of Superman. I have no idea why I hate Batman. He is a rich dick, but so is Iron Man, and I like him. I'm a weirdo. You don't need reasons, yeah. Oh
my! You know what? There is like so much like jokes and meme about that online that I see though. Like Batman really is kind of like an asshole because there's like this whole thing. It's like a conversation between Batman and Wonder Woman. It's like, oh, Dr. Freeze is terrorizing the city again. It's like, oh, well, what's his big crime? It's like he's robbing a bank. What? To fund a science experiment. What's the science experiment do? Save his wife. Don't you like own the hospital? Like, you want to cut down on crime in Gotham. Maybe instead of, like, beating people up, you should, like, you can fund things. Well, social programs, Bruce.
It's very true, and that's what, like, that's why, like, Tony Stark.
I mean, there is that bit in the second one where, like, he's like, basically making a giant arc reactor to create clean energy.
Yeah.
Like, he does do a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, they owned, like, a military defense but he, like, completely switched it to, like, defense technology.
Yeah, he's like, we're not making weapons.
So, like, he actually did, like, not only do the superhero thing, he actually did try to, like, better the world.
Yeah.
In a bit. Batman's just going around kicking people.
Batman won't kill. That's his
He'll just
golden rule.
Break your knees and give you several concussions and paralyze you for life.
But here's the thing, like, a lot of people were upset with Endgame and the death of Iron Man.
That,
I know.
I literally feel was, like, the only way to do it.
That was the only way. Put it this way, if Iron Man didn't die, I actually probably would have been disappointed because, not that I didn't like Iron Man, I thought Iron Man was phenomenal. I thought Tony Stark, I thought Robert Downey Jr. did an awesome job. But Iron Man's whole arc was him leading up to...
It's from the very beginning.
When he had that whole thing in the cave where... And that's why at the end of Endgame, when you hear the hammering, that's the hammering from him in the cave, because that's where it started. That's where he got his first thing, where his whole thing was, I want to save the world. And at the very end of Endgame, he snaps his fingers.
He did it. And the other thing, like, it's all through, like, the whole point of, like, Iron Man 2 and 3 and, you know, the whole reason Age of Ultron happened, like you said, he's trying to put an armor suit around the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Stark was always going to die. That's the only, like, he wouldn't stop. But also the fact that it all came full circle, because we meet him and he's like the most arrogant, selfish asshole, and then like, you know, he kind of has the whole character, and then in the end of Avengers where he's like taking the missile through the hole and like he fully doesn't expect to come back. And
Yeah.
like, but he went from like the most selfish asshole to sacrificing himself for the world, basically. And then to have that in the first, like, that is the first Avengers, and then that is the ending of, it's obviously not the last, but like, in this span of the Avengers.
Yeah.
The end, like, it's been hinted at from the very beginning, like, even when he's, like, dying, even Pepper says, it's like, we're safe, you can rest now.
Oh no, Shell.
That's always been his thing, like, he wouldn't stop. That's what I mean, like, he had to die on screen, because that would...
That was his story because he was supposed to die in the first one. Like, I mean, obviously not because of the storyline, but...
But he was ready to.
All right, Shell, have a good day at work.
Yeah, have fun at work.
But yeah, so like in the first one, he was supposed to die, but he ends up getting saved.
Yeah.
And then he builds the first Iron Man suit. Then he realizes it's his technology that almost killed him. So, and it's kind of funny because he decides he wants to eliminate his tech from being able to do that.
Mm.
But is it because it almost killed him? Or is it because, I know in the movie his motives are he doesn't want to hurt anybody anymore. Now, is that only because it almost, like, if he didn't get injured in that first movie,
Yeah.
if he didn't get injured, but still became Iron Man, but he did not get injured, and it was other people,
Interesting.
would he have still done that?
Yeah, because it was kind of like, like Iron Man was in the desert and like they're under attack, and then he knows it's a Stark missile that attacked them.
Yeah.
And like, he's like, oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Because if he actually didn't get injured and almost died, would he have decided to switch and not make missiles and weapons anymore?
Or would he have, like, there's like an alternate universe Iron Man that like came at Thanos with like tanks.
Well, and that, but you know what I mean? Like, maybe he would have created Iron Man, maybe he would have done the suit and stuff, but would he have, if he didn't get injured and have the hole in his heart or whatever, and have the metal in there, I shouldn't say hole in his heart, have the metal and have the magnet, keeping that, and then created the arc reactor, but he was just captured by them. And he made the Iron Man suit so they could escape. Would he have come out of that saying, I'm not going to make weapons anymore? Or would he come out and say, I'm going to make better weapons to wipe out these bad guys? And my brain was
oh, that's true. Other people would have eventually called him on it.
That's used true. By terrorists, and he starts to question his company. But he starts to question his company because he was injured. If he wasn't injured, would he have said, you know what, I have to stop these bad guys, I'm going to make better weapons and make sure that they can't fall into the bad guys' hands? Because, remember, Tony Stark is a billionaire philanthropist, kind of an asshole, and he's only interested in his own stuff. So if he was never injured, there'd be no threat to his life. So, yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe even just, being kidnapped by terrorists would have been a little bit of a wake-up call.
Yeah. But my question would be, would it have
woken him up enough?
Enough to stop making weapons, or would it have made him say, I'm going to make better weapons so we can find these guys and wipe them out more? Like a scalpel, like a surgeon.
If you look at it, though, he never stopped making weapons. He just shifted. Because, he still uses missiles.
But
he just stopped making them for the military.
Exactly. Would he have stopped, though?
I don't know.
It's kind of like... Yeah, it's one of those things that I think was... That's kind of shit that I think about all the time. It's like, if this would have happened...
Yeah,
it's like the what ifs.
The one little thing. One little different. 1 degree of change.
One little thing.
Yeah.
So you got, the Hulk. Where'd my list?
Oh. Gotta bring the list back up.
So the cool thing is, I'll just bring that one up. So we did Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor. So now, the thing with the Thor movies and it's a Thor thought with me. Thor is one of those characters too, where he's a god, pretty much. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing with Thor. He's one of the gods of thunder. But the first Thor movie, I found it boring.
I didn't find it boring. It definitely wasn't as interesting as some of the other ones.
Yeah.
But, because people complain about Captain Marvel too.
I see Captain Marvel. I thought that was awesome.
I liked it.
It
It definitely wasn't their strongest movie, but it doesn't deserve the shit it gets.
No.
Like,
but the shit it gets, and I'm throwing this out there to all you fanatics. The shit that Captain Marvel gets is strictly because she's a super powerful female. You don't hear too many girls complaining about Captain Marvel. You hear the guys.
it's true.
It's very true.
But I don't feel like Wonder Woman was a really successful movie, and I don't feel Wonder Woman got the same kind of flack that Captain Marvel
No,
did.
because
was it
Captain
just because
Marvel's
Captain Marvel was coming into an established?
She
was coming to the boys'
Marvel
club?
Is
Until Captain Marvel, really, Black Widow was the only chick.
Black Widow is the only one, but Captain Marvel is a newer female superhero, and and again, you see this all the time. Oh, they only brought them in because they have to have a female character now, and it drives me up the fucking wall. Especially Endgame, when all the female characters got together and did that run to help save. I thought that was awesome.
I really like it, and what I really like about Captain Marvel is she's not just the chick version of another. Valkyrie is almost just now we're gonna have Jane as Lady Thor. It's literally just chick Thor. Pepper as Rescue. Chick in an Iron Man suit. She-Hulk. It's right there. Captain Marvel. Okay, yes, obviously you go back to comic book origins, Captain Marvel was originally a man, but in the MCU, Captain Marvel is not a counterpart to anyone. She is completely her own.
Exactly.
She was kind of the first one.
Yeah. And they introduced the female, She-Hulk, and, who are the other female? God, you just mentioned them in my brain.
Valkyrie and Lady Thor.
Lady Thor and stuff. They were all introduced not because of any kind of feminist movement or anything. It was because Marvel and Stan Lee, because Stan Lee, now, a lot of people, and include me until, probably about 10, 15 years ago, I used to always think Stan Lee drew comics. Stan Lee can't draw, and he can draw a really crappy stick figure.
He's the story.
He's the story guy.
Yeah, he
He's the
comes up
writer.
with the backstories and the characters.
And he started getting letters to the editor or whatever from girls. And so he started introducing female characters, and of course, like he said, he goes, as far as characters go, he goes, I really didn't have that great of imagination. It was either gamma rays, cosmic rays, radioactive
like
stuff.
I said, various radioactive experiments.
So he just decided to take what he did to the male characters and do that to the females. So, I mean, in his brain it was inevitable that we have, because there's Black Widow, but there's another one too. Oh, Catwoman. Or not Catwoman. Black Cat.
Oh, yeah.
Black Cat. There's Captain Marvel. There's Valkyrie. But there's a bunch of them that are literally counterparts, like you said, She-Hulk.
Yeah.
And they weren't written for any, because of any movement. It was Stan Lee saying, little girls like comics. And surprisingly, little girls can be...
Girls like comics, too.
I shouldn't say little girls. Girls like comics, and girls are nerds, and girls are geeks, and they like all this stuff. And I'm gonna go off topic for a minute. EA, who does all the sports games, they had a hockey game, and one, I can't remember which year the hockey game was, but this girl wrote in and said, you could make your own player, but you can only make a male player. And this girl wrote in and said, listen, you have this, why can't you make a female player?
Interesting, actually. Just
And
because
what
I saw this yesterday.
Yeah, what they did is they said, you're absolutely right. So for the next year, they introduced that, but one of the faces that they actually made that you could use was this girl.
Cool.
They actually got her, took her picture, and they did whatever they do with their software, and I'm like, it has, again, nothing to do with a feminine movement and all that there. It had to do with, well, you know what? We didn't realize girls like this
Girls
stuff
play
too.
games.
Girls game.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
even going back like the 90s, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Not quite half, but there were like multiple female characters you could choose from.
Yeah. A lot of the I won't say lesser because I know there's a huge following for Tony Hawk, but like the big brands tend to not include female, like the Call of Duties, which I play. Games like that, because it's war, it's violence, it's shooting, tend to not include female because they associate guns and that kind of violence with guys. Rightfully so, I should say, but girls like shooters too. And proof of that is my bestie Dame in the UK. She, for Black Ops 2, I think it was, she was ranked number 1 in the world.
Wow.
Yeah. Team deathmatch, hardcore.
Cool.
Yeah. Every once in a while, there'd be this other guy that would go and beat her out, and then she'd just top him again.
Cool.
So that tells you that it's not just girls.
Yeah.
Okay, she would not be sitting here if she didn't like this stuff. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, so interesting that you brought up like the hockey player game and stuff. I was bartending a private event yesterday and sports was on TV is really the only way I know this. I'm not a sports person. But the Canada women's hockey team, like this version of the team, like this current makeup, has now won gold in the Olympics. There was another one that they got gold in, and they just got gold in the Women's World Cup yesterday. So this Canadian hockey team has now won triple gold in the last couple of years.
And
but girls don't like sports.
Well, no, girls like sports. They play badminton and tennis, volleyball, swimming in bikinis, and stuff like, yeah. I just, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an old guy, and even I see the wrongness and all that shit. But, yeah, who am I? But, yeah, so going back to, see, this is how our conversations go at work, too. Yeah. Start off talking about MCU, and we get sidetracked.
We get somewhere else, and then, like, 20 minutes later, we'll be like, oh, but that one thing you said, I thought of a point now, and we'll, like, completely circle back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that thing you said half an hour ago, I thought of a counter-argument.
Kind of it, yeah. We go out and do work, and I was like, oh, yeah, one more thing.
And then I'll text you at, like, 9 at night, in the middle of an episode. Oh, my God, this just happened. Yeah.
But, yeah, so now, back to the MCU. The cool thing about the MCU, and I guess you could say DC too, but if you've never read a comic or had no idea who any of these characters were, you could watch any MCU TV show.
That was me.
You could watch any of the movies and still know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, that was me. Like I said, like, obviously I'm culturally aware of them. You know, I saw the first 3 Spider-Man. I saw, you know, the animated Batman growing up, the Tim Burton Batmans, the Dark Knight, like, you know, like I've always watched superhero movies.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until, like I said, the build-up, the first phase of the Avengers, when I started getting more interested in, like, researching, like, who's this? What's the comic book origins? Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, like, I was one of those people. Basically, I like to call it, like, cultural knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, you might not necessarily have sat down and seen or, like, read about this thing, but, like, it's just such a part of our culture that you, like, know of it.
Yeah.
Like, if I say Friday the 13th, you don't have to watch a horror movie to know that's a slasher flick. It's like a cultural awareness. I had a cultural awareness of who Iron Man and Thor were. But
you didn't know who they were.
Exactly. And the movie, like, yeah. And it is really easy to come in. You don't have to be a comic book movie fan. And that's kind of how I judge a good movie, period. But comic book movie. A good comic book movie, you shouldn't have to have the comic book in there. You should just be able to go, that was a good movie.
And it's funny you say that because Iron Man. Didn't like the comics at all. I read the odd Iron Man comic that I'd come across, but I wasn't a fan of Iron Man. To me, there was nothing really that made me want to go and look at Iron Man and watch. But then when they announced the movie, my first thought was like, okay, you know what, it looks kind of cool and stuff, but my hype level wasn't there until I watched it. And when he walked out of that cave in that clunky Iron Man suit, because I remember reading the comics where the origin, and it follows along the same line, and I was like, holy crap, it's Iron Man.
But see, you were one of those people that after the after credit scene, when Nick Fury showed up, you were one of those people going, and I'm there just like, man, a lot of Samuel L. Jackson fans.
Exactly. Well, here's the funny thing about that was I totally recognized, and okay, in the comics, Nick Fury is a white guy. When they introduced Nick Fury in the MCU and it was Samuel L. Jackson, it was a black man, obviously, because Samuel L. Jackson is a black man. Or African American, sorry, pardon my political incorrectness. But anyways, as soon as I saw him on the screen, I knew exactly who his character was. I didn't have to go, okay, who's he now? Because I knew from the eye patch, first of all, but just from the way he talked, I was like, he was Nick Fury. And that's why I went like, oh, because then you kind of, and that was an afterthought scene. That was added in kind of afterwards, because they weren't, like you said at the first when we started this.
My kind of understanding was they didn't want that to be the last scene of the movie in case, like, they couldn't, like, it was a flop and they didn't make the sequels, but they didn't want to leave it out because they had this plan. So it's like, well, what if we put it, like, halfway through the credits? Then it's, like, not officially part of the movie, but it counts. Yeah. And that's kind of how the after credit thing got started.
And Marvel is a genius at after credit stuff. Even the She-Hulk. Have you been watching the after credits at She-Hulk?
Yeah. You know what I like though? Because Disney, it knows. You know how like when you're playing on streaming and it will automatically, like there's like a 5-second buffer, but it will automatically start playing the next episode?
Yeah.
Obviously like Disney owns the Marvel stuff, so of course they know.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't do that.
The delay is longer on Marvel shows because they know there's an after credit scene. Like if I'm watching like a regular show from like the 90s or early 2000s, it just plays the next episode.
Yep.
With Marvel, the break is like super extended. Like they want you to do the after credit scenes.
And the one thing, if you haven't watched She-Hulk yet, highly recommend it.
It's really good.
The one thing they did, and it was right at the end of the first episode. Was it at the end? And basically, they pulled a Deadpool, where she looks right at the camera and starts talking.
Yeah.
And it caught me off guard. I was like, who's she? And I'm like, oh. So She-Hulk does break the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And
she also like narrates her own show.
She narrates her own show. And it's just done in such a really, really good way.
And the thing is, it is done in a really good way. Like we said, it's similar to Deadpool, but it's not at all like they're not trying to copy Deadpool.
No.
It's just they do something similar, but they are like, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Exactly.
So they kept that. They didn't. The one thing that and again, I'm going to throw this is to Kevin Feige. He's trying to keep everything as close to the comics as possible, but he's still trying to extend it to bring, like we were saying when we first started talking, my generation with the younger generation, because we grew up with two different universes of comics. Because now they redid it. There was the New 52, but didn't they redo it again?
Isn't New 52 DC?
Or whatever. Marvel did the same thing.
They're constantly rebooting
things. They
things.
rebooted, and so he's trying to keep everything so that what Scott, for instance, what you're familiar with in the MCU, and what you're familiar with the MCU, and with me, might be three totally different characters, and they're putting that all together, and it's working.
And it's kind of brilliant what they did with all this, like, multiverse and the what ifs and bringing, like, the old Spider-Man stuff back because, and I think it's even in a Loki, they call it, like, the sacred timeline.
Mhm.
They basically opened up the MCU, and even going back to, like, the Netflix shows, all these different avenues, they kind of open up this chance for, like, you know, well, obviously multiple universes, but, like, reboots and stuff, because they kind of cancel out anything like, oh, this is canon or this isn't canon or whatever. It's like, yeah, that totally happened. It might not have been in the sacred universe, but it did happen.
All right, Scott, enjoy your lunch, dude.
Have a good one.
But and that's like I said, I have yet to hear anyone say, and I'm going to stick with just MCU, not the Spider-Mans, because that's a whole other debate. My Iron Man that I grew up with is better than the Iron Man that you had. No one has said that. Everyone's like, because now everyone's saying Iron Man. You talk to anybody today and you say Iron Man, they think Robert Downey Jr.
Exactly. Well, just like the Spider-Man. It's easy to say Tom Holland's the perfect Spider-Man. These other two guys suck. Well, wait, we didn't always have Tom Holland. If you look at the evolution,
yeah,
you know, and I mean, it's like anything else. The very first time you build something, you're going to have to practice a few times.
Yeah, and again,
you know, and considering each one got like a little bit better and a little bit better, and now they finally nailed it, but it's not to say the other ones weren't good.
Yeah, and again, the only reason that I say Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is
because he was
Spider-Man.
the first one.
He was the first one.
Like I will always say,
it.
my Joker is Mark Hamill.
Yeah,
I love, you know, I love the movie ones, but like when I picture Joker voice in my head, it's Mark Hamill.
Yeah. See, now it's funny because when I picture Joker voice, I'm a toss-up between Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger. And it's really weird in my head how that sounds.
See, it's weird because, again, like, I think I was
You need a water?
I have a water.
Oh, you still good?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go grab
Cool. I'm,
small bottle.
gonna hold down the fort, I guess.
Yes, talk to people.
Okay. Hi. What was I gonna say? Something about the Jokers. Oh, yeah. So, like, I was pretty young when, like, the Jack Nicholson... What year was the Jack Nicholson Batman?
They were 80s.
Oh, yeah, so I wouldn't even... Like, I'm a 90, born in 90, so, like... I've seen them, obviously,
80s.
but, like, by the time I saw Batman and stuff, like, I already knew Jack Nicholson as an actor. Like, you know? So it's like... It's not like Joker... Oh, yeah, Jack Nicholson. It was like Jack Nicholson is the Joker in this movie. Not, you know... Not to detract anything from... I'm just saying I already had that recognizability.
Yeah. When they announced that Jack Nicholson was going to be the Joker, everyone
thought it was, like...
When they announced that before the movie came out and they said they cast Jack Nicholson, everyone was like, holy crap, wow, that's going to be awesome. But then they said Michael Keaton was going to be Batman, and everybody just shat on it. Like,
everyone shat on Heath Ledger, too, when they announced he was going to be the Joker.
Yeah.
There was, like, so much crap for the guy, and then it turns out he's, like 80% of people, he's their favorite Joker now.
And the thing is, though, and the one thing that I don't agree with, and I'll explain the reason why, him getting an Oscar for his role. And the only reason
I honestly think it was only because he passed away.
That's why it like doesn't sit right with me. I think he did a phenomenal job. I don't think anyone could have pulled it off as well as he did. And it was nice to see a superhero movie get an Academy Award for one of the actors as opposed to effects or sound.
Yeah, because they get like effects and costumes and stuff quite a bit.
But they never get
like
actor because comedies and sci-fi and superhero movies don't get recognized for what they are. And
it's interesting though that he won Best Actor, but I mean, like, I honestly think, like, obviously we didn't get to see. Had we gotten the chance to see a lot more from him, I think he would have been like one of the great actors of our time.
Oh, 100%.
Considering he went from, like, rom-coms and stuff to, like, then Brokeback Mountain and The Joker. And, like, he did well in all of them. But because he was so young and he did kind of have that reputation for rom-coms up until the point, like, I think he was kind of underrated in his time. I thought if he had lived and we got to see more work from him, he would be one of, like, the really good actors of our era.
Well, he did Knight's Tale, which was phenomenal. but he did another one with Mel Gibson, The Patriot,
Yeah.
which was
But
really
then he
good.
did that, like, 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah,
And,
and then he did all those
yeah,
rom-coms.
all those, like, rom-com
He was-
teenager movies. Like,
I don't think he would have went back to any of those style of movies. He was working his way up to
better and better
the
things.
better, like Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah.
I could never play a role like that, and it's because I could not play a gay person. That's just, and they weren't gay. I can't watch the movie because it has no appeal to me. Just for some reason, I just have no desire to watch it. But for an actor coming up to say, yeah, you know what, I'll go and I'll do this, and I will, kiss another man and everything. I have mad respect for a straight man who will act that out, because that could be a career destroyer, as we all know.
If you don't have enough chemistry, they will edit you out.
They will edit you out, but society will cancel you.
Yeah, that too.
Because they'll be like, well, I'm never watching, and again, we won't go down that road on this conversation, but I think not today's topic, but he was working his way up. Like, I think after the Joker role, all his movies were probably going to be great.
Yeah, so, like, not to say a Best Actor award wasn't deserved. He definitely was a really good actor. I just think he only got it because he passed away.
He only got it because he passed away. And he did not... His family has even said he did not die of an overdose because he thought he was the Joker and had a big mental breakdown, and the Joker role was too hard on his psyche. He suffered from drug problems and anxiety, and he had mental health issues, and had nothing to do with the Joker role.
But I mean, think a lot of the great artists
They
do.
always, yeah.
You know, how many of these, like, great actors that, like, when you see them not acting and it's just them, you're like, they're a little odd.
Yeah, it was a Van Gogh cut his ear off.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, great artists and great performers always are a little mentally
Nuts.
off.
Yeah. I gotta watch the words I use because I know there's stigma with a lot of words. I'm an old guy living in a society that doesn't use the same terminology I use.
I mean, I'm still learning this too. Like,
yeah, so...
You know, like, I'm in the LGBT community, I'm in the neurodivergent community, and I'm still learning, like, different terms and different preferences all the time.
So I may say stuff that is not proper to say now, but I don't mean it in any kind of derogatory way. But anyways, so a lot of these actors, like Christian Bale,
Yeah.
his Batman, not to take away from Michael Keaton's Batman, because again, apples and oranges, but Christian Bale, his Batman so far for me was the best Batman.
Oh, yeah.
He nailed it.
So good. And again, massive, like, diva asshole. Like, he's known for hissy fits on set, right?
Yeah.
But the man delivers.
That was just it. He did an awesome role. What's his name as the Green Goblin in
Defoe. William Defoe.
Willem Dafoe.
I don't know why I always say last names first.
I know. I don't know why I forget names because I'm a big fan. Him as Green Goblin, perfect casting.
I was so okay.
The only thing I didn't like was the outfit.
Right? Like, I was so... And actually, I had this reaction, too. They got Tim Roth back for Abomination in She-Hulk.
Oh, my God.
And I was so happy. I was so excited. I was, like, watching the She-Hulk, and, like, there was the conversation leading up to it and stuff, and I'm just like, I wonder. I gotta see now. I'm kind of curious. I hope they do. Oh, my goodness, it's him, yeah.
I love Tim Roth.
But, yeah, and I mean, like, the Spider-Man, everyone kind of knew, like, the different Spider-Man would be crossing over. Holy crap, they got everyone back. They got...
Bomb.
Woo! They got like J.K. Simmons back. They got
Only your boobs showed.
They got Jamie Foxx back. They got William Dafoe back. And I'm just like, they got like everybody. How did they keep this under wraps?
I know.
And then they got Tim Roth for She-Hulk, and I'm like, yay!
And here's the cool thing with you say like bringing people back, like Spider-Man No Way Home. When I read that they were going to bring all these people back, I thought, oh, they don't need to do this for a movie to try to like boost the views, because I thought it was going to be done. It actually fit the story.
And yeah, that's the other thing. It's like, wait, how are they doing this? But then, like, you know, again, mild spoiler alerts. It's not a spoiler alert. It's literally on the back of the movie. Doctor Strange's spell.
Yeah.
Okay, because like when we first heard about it, it's like, wait, how's this going to happen and still make sense? But yes, it was a Doctor Strange spell, and it made sense for the movie, and it was actually really good.
And they didn't.
And, like,
it wasn't cheesy cameos.
It wasn't cheesy, but there was enough like cheese and in jokes, like the like them being all like, oh, you got a lower back thing too, or like you shoot that. Does it come out of any other body parts? Like there was there. But again, Marvel's famous for the banter. And that's what I like. And again, I'm neurodivergent, so banter is basically my main form of communication. So I love the movie with like the Avengers, good movie. And then the banter between them all is just the icing on the cake.
There's a scene in, I think it was Ultron, and it's right at the first, where they're attacking the bad guy's base or whatever, and Tony, as Iron Man, goes into the one room, and he's like, hey guys.
Please be a fake door. Please be a fake door. Yay.
Well, no, it's when they're all there, and he goes, all right, let's just talk, and they all start shooting at him. So he shoots his missiles, knocks them all out, and he goes, good talk. And the little voice in the back goes, no, it wasn't.
Oh, yes, I love that.
Or in when they're on the big sky carrier, and he goes, that man's over there playing Galaga. He didn't think we noticed, but we did.
Yeah, stuff like that.
And there's a little... Now, he brought something really cool to his
He was hiding
character.
food around. You know when he's walking around eating, and he offers, it looks like, like a positive reinforcement. It's like, oh, I'm talking and I'm snacking, and oh, Banner had a good point, blueberry. It's like, oh yes, you're smart. Have a snack.
Those were his,
because he was like, well, he trained so much for like Iron Man, like he was eating like an insane amount of food.
Yeah,
which I get it. When I worked out a lot, I was incredibly hungry all the time too.
He'd leave snacks laying around.
He would hide snacks, and like they tried to find them, and they eventually just let him do it. He's like, yeah, blueberry,
and
like.
See,
that's what I mean. He is able to seamlessly... That's what we mean by, like, he was born to be Tony Stark. He wasn't necessarily breaking character, but he brings so much of himself to the character that he didn't... There was no in and out of character.
Well, that's just it. And to me, that is an actor that really knows their crap. And now, going back to, a touch base with Heath Ledger again, he put himself in a motel room and practice a walk and practice a certain cadence in his speech and stuff. They let him. He did his own makeup.
Yeah,
that was all his design.
Well, that's where the little tongue flicks came from. Was the prosthetics?
He like started. So he had that.
It was just. I mean, and I don't like things touching my face. The last 2 years have been great. Yeah. Anyway, not talking about that today. But like, I am weird about stuff touching my face, and like, yeah, having the prosthetics on there, he like, you're gonna subconsciously investigate it.
Yeah.
And he kept doing like the tongue flicks, and eventually, like, he worked it into a character tick, and it actually made, again, his version of the Joker that much more distinct from Nicholson's, that much more just distinct at all, creepier, yeah, because he almost. Like, it was almost reptilian.
Someone walking up to you going, so, what do you
yeah.
Why so serious? And that's just, like...
Oh, one of my favorite... Okay, I know this is literally like 5 seconds of a whole trilogy, but one of my favorite moments of that movie is when he's like talking to all the gangsters and stuff. He's like, you want to see a magic trick? And he puts the pencil... It's magic!
I know, and...
That...
One reason why I shouldn't have my boy here pull your head off.
How about a magic trick? I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. It's gone. Oh, and by the way, the suit, it wasn't cheap. You ought to know, you bought it.
Shit. I want to hear proposition.
No, and...
That sums up his character so well. That is exactly... You get, like, you get the crazy, and I'm gonna kill everybody, but also... magic. I'm gonna make it fun.
The Joker doesn't care if he lives or dies.
And when he burns the money.
Yeah. He doesn't.
Yeah, he literally...
He doesn't care if he lives or dies.
Those two scenes perfectly encapsulate that version of the Joker.
And transferred to comic form and cartoon form, that's the Joker that's in the animated.
Yeah,
that's Mark Hamill's Joker.
I don't remember what version it was. I just like read a couple. It was a one-off, but basically Joker, there's like a one-off where he basically takes over a TV station and has like a game show. So like he thinks like he doesn't actually kill anyone in this whole thing, but like he makes them think they're gonna get electrocuted, but then it's like feathers or something. Like,
yeah.
Like he thinks they're gonna drop into a vat of acid, but it's really just like whipped cream. Like, he literally
He's
just he is insane.
He
is
is
this whole shtick.
He's like if you. They say a lot. There's some people they walk that fine line between insanity, and genius.
Mm.
The Joker, that line's gone.
Mm.
He's an insane genius.
Yeah.
And in the animated show, one of his henchmen kills Batman. At least that's the storyline. And he's so upset he kills that henchman.
Yeah, well, he's
And then
kicked Harley out for that. Remember, actually, it's the origin. The Harley Quinn, like, origin story, where, like, she uses his plan with the piranhas and stuff, and then she does it. Like, Harley succeeds. She has Batman. And then Joker, like, bursts in, and, like, he like, unties Batman, and he's, like, brushing off his shoulders, like, I'm sorry, the kids misunderstood. Like, and Harley's even like, it's your plan, it's what you wanted. Like, isn't this what you wanted? You wanted Batman, you wanted like, I used your plan. And he's just so... And that, again, you can't kill me because of, like, some self-righteous... And I can't kill you because you're just too much fun.
Yeah.
That's no, you don't get to kill Batman. Batman's my plaything. You don't... No.
Well, in the storyline, they rob a jewelry store, and as the alarms are going off, and they're taking all the jewels, and he's standing, and he's like, hey, guys, put everything back. We're not doing this. And they're like, why? This is a good haul. He goes, Batman's not coming. It's no fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, Marvel has no villain like that.
Mm.
They have some bad guys, but they have no one. Even they tried to make Green Goblin is probably the closest to that, because that was part of Norman.
And also, I
Osborn.
wonder if they had to put Green, like, would we feel the same way if Green Goblin had been in a different movie? Because we almost saw his origin alongside Spider-Man's.
Yes.
In the first movie, and then like him going mad in Oscorp and stuff. Like,
and that's
it was both their origin stories.
Yeah. In the comics too, that's how, like, Norman Osborn went. He was insane, and that's what made him that much of a bad guy, but still not on the Joker level. And then when Harry, and this has always been a point of contention with me with Marvel, not Marvel, with some of the fans, when they introduced in 3 James Franco, and he was going to be the Green Goblin again.
Oh yeah.
Everyone was calling him Green Goblin 2. I'm like, no, he was the Green Goblin. He wasn't Green Goblin 2 or anything. He wasn't Hobgoblin. That was a different guy. He just basically became the Green Goblin like his dad.
Yeah.
But he went nuts too. And that's why when you watch him when he's fighting Peter, when he's like so intent on killing Peter, Spider-Man, he can fly that machine and he can do everything. When Peter doesn't kill him, and then Peter needs his help to save Mary Jane, and he goes to help. He has a hard time flying the thing and fighting.
Now
It's
that you
because
mention it,
because his insanity that was basically there because of his anger was gone.
Yeah,
and
we kind
that's
of
what
see
he
that a bit
needed.
in No Way Home. Like, he has to be crazy for the hoverboard to listen to him.
Yeah, and he kind of has a hard time with it because the anger that fueled his insanity, because that's the only thing that made him insane, was his anger.
Mm.
And he didn't have that anymore, so he had a hard time fighting, had a hard time controlling himself. And it's really cool that they kept that in the comics, or from the comics, and they moved it into the movie. There's so many things that Marvel did, well, even before the MCU, that worked. But the MCU, again, seeing what they're doing now with Phase 4.
Just the feat of, like, 15 years, 23 movies, that many actors, that many production teams, that many different directors, and the fact that, like, it is what it is. Like, that is just astounding. That is a theatrical feat.
And the only ones who'll do it again is them.
Yep.
Because they have Kevin Feige has some sort of formula. And again, I don't want to give him all the credit because the actors,
It was a team.
It's the whole team.
But he gets the executive producer title.
He's the guy who basically says, well, this has to be this way because we're filming this over here.
Mm-hmm.
Because they filmed Captain Marvel after Infinity War, but before Endgame, or something like that. I can't remember how that worked, but
They were filming like 3 movies at the same time.
and they had to bring her in, but she already had the hair cut short when Endgame happened. So they kept everything fit, and the only ones who'll do that again be Marvel, because Phase 4. Now that watching all the other little things on Disney Plus, and you can see, okay, they're doing the same thing. This isn't lining up with this, and I can't wait for who the big baddie's going to be, and I think it's going to be. Well, how many movies have we had in Phase 4?
So far, I think we just had No Way Home, Multiverse Madness, and
Oh, these don't have the phases. The other one does.
yeah, Eternals. That's the. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we've
I
had.
feel like Eternals kind of went under the radar. Like, it
Yeah.
ties in, but at the same time, it's like a completely separate group. Like, they even say we can't get involved in anything there. Like,
Yeah,
Eternals, I saw the movie. It was okay. It didn't wow me.
yeah. Because Far From Home actually was. Endgame
Oh,
was
Shang-Chi was the other movie.
Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
No Way Home.
Again, magic.
But, and the cool thing is, I didn't watch all this extra stuff on this side, like all the
I've
extra
seen
shows.
some of it.
I've seen some of it now.
I've seen most of it, but like some stuff is.
I haven't watched any of the Iron Brutes yet.
No, I haven't seen that, and I've seen maybe like 3 seasons of Agents.
In case
of
anyone's
S.H.I.E.L.D..
wondering what we're watching, what we're looking at,
Yeah.
I've got the lists up here. On the left side is just the list of movies, and on the right side is the list of movies with all the like.
And like even like the shorts, like the DVD extras, like funny thing happened on the way to the hammer.
Yeah.
Which
And
yeah.
Those are all the. That one was a. They're calling it a short on there. That was an end credit scene.
Oh yeah.
So Phase 4,
But like
Loki.
the fact they give them their own little titles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loki, What Ifs. Highly
And you don't like they don't maybe directly tie into the MCU, but like they might eventually. They might
Yeah.
have something up their sleeve, and I mean even if they don't, that is just such a good series.
It is. WandaVision, yeah, Falcon Winter Soldier. So, and then so they already had these 4 series on Disney
What I'm
Plus.
curious is how much is gonna like characters that were introduced in TV shows, like not so much like Winter Soldier and Falcon, because like they were introduced to the movies and then got a TV show. They can easily come back to movies.
Yeah.
I'm talking characters like can't remember her, Kate Bishop, characters like Miss Marvel who start in the TV show.
Yeah.
How they're going to bring them into are they going to bring them into the theatrical universe, and how they're going to do it.
Probably because
That is something I'm interested to see.
Because spoiler alert, it's been when did Spider-Man come out? Last year? This first of this year?
I think so. It was definitely end of last year, early this year.
Yeah.
Because it just came out
So
on
it's been
DVD
out long
not
enough
long.
that I can give away a spoiler.
Yeah.
Crap. Charlie Cox.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's the other one.
I know.
They didn't like
TV show.
again.
and
Everyone
they
knew
did-
the other Spider-Mans were coming back. Everyone knew some of the villains were coming back. Like, and it's literally just one scene. I think he has like 2 lines.
2 lines.
But just the fact that like they got him in the movie, and that's what I mean by like they have now done to the MCU what you can argue the comic books. They've literally expanded the universe by like.
Yeah. They've now said that, okay,
Yeah.
we've taken, because everyone was upset when they took all the shows off Netflix. That happens with all kinds of shows.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
Anytime, like, same thing. There's a bunch of Fox stuff because, like, Disney bought Fox before
Yeah.
Disney Plus, and, like, now there's stuff that, like...
There's the stuff going to Paramount.
I mean, also,
This-
we work in a media store, so, like, we know some of the funny things. Like, we can get these 3 seasons of a series, but these 3 are discontinued because they got bought out and they're only streaming them.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can buy season 1, 7, and 8, but if you want to watch season 3, you have to subscribe.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. Like, every time a company gets bought out, especially by a streaming service, there's, like, what's going where and there's so much. So, yeah, pulling them from Netflix, because same thing. I think, wasn't Captain Marvel the last Marvel movie to go to Netflix.
I think so.
Because I remember there was like a last chance to see all the Marvel stuff before it got taken down.
I think so, yeah.
Because like Infinity War and everything used to be on Netflix, but obviously when Disney Plus started,
But yeah, when they took those off, like Jessica Jones, I thought was an okay series. I never even watched Iron Fist.
same. I just couldn't get into it.
And what was the other one?
Punisher and Luke
Punisher
Cage.
was awesome.
Punisher was good.
Hey, Scotty, welcome aboard. How's things over there? Did you eat supper yet? Scotty, as his name says, is from Scotland.
Ah, cool.
I am good. Thanks. We're good. We're discussing Marvel and the MCU with some sidetrack to DC and some other stuff.
Sidetracks everywhere.
That's the way our brains work. We get sidetracked. But yeah, so when they took those off, like Jessica Jones, okay, Iron Fist.
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
How's your friend here? Oh, Scotty, this is Kate. Kate, Scotty. Trying to think of the other characters, the other things. Punisher. Oh God, who's the guy that could? I can't remember his name. Anyways, the only one that I was like, I hope they bring Punisher into the MCU, but he's even more dark than Deadpool.
Mm.
But I was really hoping they'd bring Daredevil, because
Yeah.
I am probably one of the few people who really love Ben Affleck's Daredevil.
You know, again, you have to look at it through the lens of when it was made. It was really good. I liked it.
Everyone hated his performance. I'm like,
I liked it.
it's what the director wanted.
And I was super excited when Elektra got her own movie, and then it sucked.
It was, yeah, that, and again, I can't blame the actor. I'm going to touch base because Wicked Wax earlier said he's a big Batman fan. He loved Batman. The new Batman movie, if they called it anything but a Batman movie, have you seen it?
I'll get around to watching it eventually.
Yeah.
Like for everything I've heard from it is like I'll watch it eventually, but I'm not running out to watch it. Like I'll get around to it, but everything I've heard of it is exactly like you said. It's not a Batman movie.
No, all the male characters in the movie.
And you said they basically turned like Riddler again, like brilliant, and like the clues and everything. They basically turned him into like a serial killer.
And again, I won't.
And what's with his costume? He's literally just in like a trench coat or something.
Yeah, with some sort of goggles and a hood.
What the hell? That's not Riddler.
No,
like literally, if they like take away the bat suit, take away all like, it's exactly like Ocean's 8. Literally call it any other movie. Don't tie the oceans into it. It was a good heist movie. By trying to make it an Ocean's movie, why? Like,
and that's, you see, where I had the problem with the new.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I thought my problem with the new Batman movie was going to be Robert Pattinson, because I just could not picture him.
You know what?
And
again,
his emo Bruce Wayne was a little odd to watch, but his Batman was spot on.
You know what? I hear he's actually like a good actor. Like I obviously only know him from Twilight. I never got into Twilight. I might have seen 20 minutes of one of the Twilight movies. It
Scotty
was boring.
likes your name.
Hmm?
Scotty likes your name.
Oh, thank you. My parents picked it. But like obviously he got like really, really big from Twilight, but apparently he's done like some indie flicks and like some dramas and stuff. Like again, I haven't sat down and watched them, so I can't say from first-hand perspective, but like talking to, again, from our work, we know a lot of film nuts. I hear he's actually like a good actor. That like Twilight kind of cut him short.
He got typecast and stigmatized.
Yeah, he got stigmatized from Twilight.
Yeah, and and that's why I thought I was going to have a problem. But again, it wasn't him. It was the direction, the writer. They ruined Riddler.
Mm.
It was basically take away the outfits, and actually just take away the batsuit, because Riddler's outfit wasn't even Riddler.
Yeah, exactly.
And so take away the bat, and it literally was a serial killer movie where he leaves clues and taunts them. And I'm like, and I feel the same way about the Joker movie.
I was gonna say that too.
The Joker movie, absolutely loved it. Should not have been called Joker, because he wasn't the Joker. He was a guy who wore clown makeup.
But that was not at all meant to be like like a super villain, not a superhero, but that wasn't, I don't get the vibe that was intended as like a superhero movie. That was like an art house, we won awards movie. That was like everything from like who the director was, the actors they cast, like that was like a like think tank, you know what I mean? Almost like award fodder.
Yeah. It literally, start to finish, everything was phenomenal. They should have called it like The Clown.
Yeah.
Man in Makeup. Guy Goes Nuts. Anything.
Like literally, yeah.
The only reason that...
And trying to shoehorn baby Bruce Wayne in there to make it a Batman movie was just weird. It felt awkward.
Well, and again, I think the only reason that they even called it the Joker, and this is just my take on it, was that people go see it expecting a Joker origin movie.
Yeah.
Because to me, it was not a Joker origin movie.
And that's why I'm not in any hurry to see the new Batman. Yeah. Because I know it's not going to live up to what I want the Batman movie to be, so I will just watch it when I'm in the mood for some kind of drama movie.
But yeah, every male character in the new Batman movie, they all talk like this.
Which is so weird, because that's what people rip Christian Bale for. But if you go back, like even the animated Batman series, it's the same voice actor, but he changes between Bruce Wayne and Batman. He's always done that. He is a public figure. He is like the Prince of Gotham. He has to disguise his identity.
Go watch the original Spider-Man cartoon from the 60s. When he's Peter Parker, he talks like this with a high-pitched voice. But when he puts on the mask, he has a deeper voice. Because he has to disguise his voice. Because people will know him. Picture Peter Parker rescuing Mary Jane as Spider-Man and talking in his own voice. It's going to be, hey, Peter.
Are you Pete? Is that
yeah?
Like like they all do it.
Yeah.
So now the fact that like that was kind of one of the big gripes people had from the Dark Knight trilogy, and then they do it with every character in this movie. And same thing, like, and that's what I really don't like. We were talking about Phase 4, and Marvel clearly has like a big plan. It's going to be interesting to see what they do next. I feel like DC had a plan and then chucked it out the window because they had Batman vs Superman and brought in Wonder Woman. They had, the Aquaman and Justice League, and like again, one of the big gripes about Batman vs Superman was there was no lighting. Like, increase your lighting budget, guys. You're a major studio. And then Justice League came out, and it was brighter. It was funnier. There was more banter. And then they like replaced half the cast and put out the Batman, and I'm like, well, you just completely undid your last 6 years of work. Where's Wonder Woman? What's you obviously can't continue with the Justice League because like, okay, so there is no Justice League 2 now. Great, fine, whatever. Screw you.
And if they're smart, they would reboot. Find their own Kevin Feige.
Yeah, DC needs a Feige.
Who can? Hey, thanks for the lurk, Lethal. And plan it out, right? Like, figure out the stories you want, but don't do 2 movies and jump into an ensemble without introducing your characters. And that's where Marvel was like, okay, their big experiment was Iron Man, and then the Hulk, and then they realized that no one liked Edward Norton, so they had to recast that. So in the meantime, then they did Thor, then Iron Man 2, I think.
You have the list.
I'm like, why am I doing this?
But actually, that was a topic we were on a long time ago that we never actually finished. We got talking about Captain Marvel and like female superheroes. But that's kind of the thing. Like, I feel like Thor and Captain Marvel, like, they're kind of this category where, they might not be the strongest movies. Like, they're not as good as like Iron Man or The Winter Soldier. But they're pertinent information going into the Avengers movie. Like, if you'd gone into Avengers and they hadn't made Thor, you're going to be like, who's this Thor and Loki? Like, Loki was the bad guy in Avengers. Like, Thor is maybe not the best solo Marvel movie, but it's important information. Yeah. And again, it's not like watching it was unenjoyable. It just wasn't as good as the others.
It wasn't as good. But then, here's the cool thing with Thor. Like, Chris Hemsworth, he wanted out because he didn't think they were doing Thor any justice. And then they did Ragnarok.
Apparently that's what brought about the whole thing, was like everyone, like he was tired of playing him, people, like the crew were like, compared to, and I kind of get what they were saying. Compared to the others, he was kind of like a one-dimensional character.
Yeah.
And that's where Ragnarok and bringing, I can never pronounce his name right, so I know I'm going to mess it up. But
Taika
Taika
Waititi.
Waititi.
Yeah.
Bringing Taika Waititi in.
Yeah.
Um,
Rockman.
That's where they went with, and again, he'd been playing this character for so long. Even in Infinity War, they let them ad-lib some stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, giving them more freedom. It's like, okay, well, you've been in this character for 10 years now, just do. So, like, a lot of the stories between, like, Thor and Loki were ad-libs, or, like, just here's a loose script and adapt it. And, like, that's everything about Ragnarok, even the cutting his hair, that was a deliberate choice to signal the shift in Thor.
Yeah.
That's why the Dark World to Ragnarok was such a 180.
Well, they
and again, it could have flopped. People loved it, though.
But
by all means, it could have been a disaster.
It was my favorite Thor movie.
It was so good. It's so funny.
It brought character to him.
And it's the type of funny that you can watch it over and over again, and it's not less funny.
Well, that's just it. And one of the cool things and this is on him, when Endgame came out and they first show him and, Fat Thor.
Mm.
And then when the big battle came, they wanted him to have lost all that, and he said no. He goes, there's people out there that suffer from this, like mental health, and they gain the weight. They don't just all of a sudden decide they're gonna, lose. It's not gonna just disappear.
Which is good, because that's exactly what it was, right? Thor obviously went into a depression where, I mean, we can like analyze stuff all day of like what should have happened, and hypothetically. Like I like to quote Okio a lot with, where has she been hiding this whole time? Like, like a certain handful of Avengers should have been able to take out Thanos, no problem. But then we wouldn't have had the movies. So like, we're not going to go into all that. But, like what he should have done. And like even Thanos said, like, you should have gone for the head. So like he obviously carries a lot of guilt over that. And like he went into a depression, and that's basically...
Yeah.
So, like, you're not just going to magically snap out of it just because the band's back together.
No, and that's it, and that's what he said. He goes, you know what? For me to all of a sudden lose that weight, like, how would I? That's not how this works. And he kept it.
Even if they're aliens, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it takes a couple months.
And a lot of fans actually appreciated that of it, because he's like, no, that my character would not.
But then for this next Thor movie, he can be back to the Thor we know, because there's been time elapse.
There's time lapse. He could exercise. And there's just all these little things that they let, like Robert Downey with the snacks on thing. Him saying, no, I'm not going to take off they call it a fat suit. I'm not going to take off the fat suit. Just letting them do their own thing. And again, that's having the right cast too. If Edward Norton had been part of that crew, would they have all gotten along? Like
Black Widow and Hawkeye.
And Hawkeye could easily beat Thanos. MCU has been bad since Endgame, and Endgame was kind of bad. I tend to disagree. I thought MCU right up the end of Phase 3 was phenomenal. I could sit down and watch all 23 movies again, over and over. I thought they were awesome. And at first with the new Phase, I was wondering where they were going to go with it, and they actually, I can see now what they're planning. I think it's awesome. I can't wait for the next movie. Yeah. Age of Ultron, yes.
Yeah, I thought Age of Ultron was good.
Yeah, I thought because that...
And it was necessary. Like, it led to Civil War. It led to everything going on with Tony. Like, it was...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good movie, and it set up for the next...
Exactly. Like,
set of movies.
Each one set for the next one. And they said the 2 Thor movies, not my favorite, but they all fit in. Because, I thoroughly enjoyed them. I could watch them. I've been a Marvel fan all my life. And when I was a kid, these are the superhero movies that I wanted to see. But when I was a kid, the
Hulk was a guy painted green.
Yes, and the effects and everything that they use today, wasn't it? The movies would have been not so good. I mean, they probably looked good then, but yeah, I know like 15 years from now, I could go back and watch the first Iron Man and still say, wow, still holds up. And that's kind of just because of the way technology is now, everything looks more realistic. What did we watch the other day? And the guy was flying, and it was from the early 2000s, and I was like, wow, I remember watching that thinking this is cool, and now I'm watching it going,
You
wow,
can tell he's on a block in front of a
you
green
can tell
screen.
it's a green screen.
Yeah.
Even watching terribly boring TVs. The TV, they were actually, that wasn't a TV or a movie. Those were actually a live action TV show. I have them. A lot of people don't even remember.
I was gonna say, I remember there's at least 2 different animated Spider-Man shows. There's like a 60s and a 90s. This is the first I'm hearing of a live-action Spider-Man TV show.
Live action, and at the time I loved them. Actually, I watched them again a while ago, and they're cheesy. When he would spin a web, it would happen off screen, and all you'd see is the bad guys having like this rope net thrown on him. When he climbed a building, you don't see the rope, but you can tell he's being pulled because the arms and legs are going like Sarah, and he's moving really, and yeah. So it was definitely cheesy. They only did 1 season. But I could watch it again because it's just so cheesy.
That's like those like movies that are like so bad they get a cult following.
That's just it. But yeah, so the Spider-Man, I am the biggest Spider-Man you'll ever find. I'm gonna throw this up here. I pulled it up earlier so that I could show it off.
Alright.
This was one of the highlights of my life right here. I got to meet Stan the Man. I was in total awe. Yeah, that was my very first convention that I went to. And I only went because he was going to be there. And I hadn't even met him yet. And I was only there like probably 20 minutes, and I was planning the next year. That's how much I just walked in the door, and I was like, I got to come back.
Cool.
But I only went because Stan Lee was there.
Yeah. We've already established that,
Yeah.
Too late for this year, but next year I'm probably going to do HalCon or something with you.
You should come to HalCon with us.
Yeah.
I can't wait. But yeah, I mean, you can bash the MCU, you can bash DC. I won't bash because there's a lot of artistry and a lot of stuff that goes into it. And an actor is only as good as the direction and the production crew, and they're only as good as the actors. But when they all mesh and work well, and again, I don't think even one person, like if Edward Norton, they would have kept him on as Hulk, I don't think the MCU would have
Or
went.
same thing. I like the second Rhodey a lot better. The chemistry between
The
him and
chemistry
Tony
was
was just
perfect.
so much better.
And I instantly forgot about Terrence Howard.
Exactly. You can completely forget that they're ever, it's not like, because we were talking about, we bring up Dark Knight a lot and how that kind of revolutionized the superhero movie. Like that, they were allowed to be like dark and broody. I actually didn't realize till they announced Dark Knight Rising that Batman Begins and Dark Knight were a series. Because, I mean, at this point, there's already like 4 or 5 Batman movies.
Yeah.
With like 4 or 5 different actors. So, like, to me, being like not super into this like superhero movie world, but like watching them, because they changed Rachel. They recast with Maggie Gyllenhaal.
And
I completely there was enough time between Batman Begins and Dark Knight that it wasn't till like a couple months later that I was like, oh, they go together. This is a series. I literally just thought this was another Batman movie.
Well, see, I knew it was a series, but I totally forgot about.
I mean, Maggie Gyllenhaal, I think, did it a lot better. I wish they would have cast. I would have, if there was like movie magic, make it happen, a cut of Batman Begins with Maggie Gyllenhaal. I think it would have been better. I liked her better in the role.
Oh, she made me. I totally didn't even realize they changed the actress because she just fit. It's kind of like when they got rid of Terrence Howard and brought in
Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle. I forgot about Terrence Howard. A lot of people have.
A lot of people.
And yeah, I might have forgot Don Cheadle's name, but I knew it was him. And that's the difference. Like, I have to like go, oh yeah, there was a different guy because he fit.
And again, for, we were talking, they took huge risks. For as successful as Iron Man was, to come out with the second one and recast one of the major characters.
One of the major characters.
Like how many other franchises could pull off that big of a recast part way into something and have it not, there was no, I didn't hear anything. There was no like internet blow up. The only
blow up was from Terrence Howard.
Yeah, there was no like bring back real Rhodey. There was no this is gonna suck. There was like nothing, and he like the chemistry was so much better that you can completely forget about.
That's because Terrence Howard was acting as Rhodey. Don Cheadle came in and was Rhodey. So Terrence Howard was playing the part.
Yeah. But
Don Cheadle came in and basically he was like, I'm Rhodey. I'm
and again, it's just amazing that like they were able to get this. It truly is an ensemble. And I guess one of the things they kept in mind, like especially like after Iron Man kind of got the ball rolling, like bring people in later on, especially, like Benedict Cumberbatch was already a big name when they cast him.
Yeah.
It's not like, some of the other ones like, okay, even if they were known, like Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans were like well-known actors, they weren't necessarily like household name A-listers before the Avengers. And I mean, Chris Evans and Tom Hiddleston, at least in North America, were unknown when they were cast for Thor. Bringing in people who are already established stars later on. But I kind of heard something about like the casting directors actually took this into consideration, casting the other Avengers. They need to be able to like embody the character and like carry the solo movie, but then they also like they knew Avengers was the plan. They knew they needed to act as an ensemble.
And they knew that...
like trying to cast like how like that was such like
how many of them look at Endgame and the big battle at the end. Now forget all the CGI things that they brought in, but when you look at that huge, the main group, what is there, like 10 or 12 of them?
Oh, yeah.
Anyways,
by Endgame, probably even more.
But they all had to get along.
Yeah, and I mean...
How many articles online or reports did you hear of any of them fighting with each other?
I heard the opposite. I hear all these anecdotes about, like, they all go out partying together, all the Avengers were invited to, like, Scarlett Johansson's baby shower. Like, they all got tattoos together. Like, these guys really are friends in real life, and it shows on the screen.
And that goes down to a casting director.
Yeah, and I mean, again, some of it. I mean, obviously Hollywood, everyone's friends with everyone, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
But like
egos,
even like
Robert
Downey Jr. was already friends with Mark Ruffalo,
and
was like, "Yeah, dude, you got to take it."
And he's the one who said to Chris Evans, because Chris Evans was worried because first of all
he'd already done Fantastic Four,
and he was worried about the typecasting, and he was worried about
the 10-year commitment.
The 10-year commitment, and Robert Downey Jr. just said to him, "You need to do this. You do this, and it works. You're going to write your own ticket."
Well, I mean, apparently, according to Chris Evans in interviews, everyone told him to do it.
Yeah,
he's like everyone. He's like, well, of course, my manager said I was crazy, but like everyone, he's like my sister told me I had to do it. My therapist told me I had to do it. My best friend told me I'd be crazy not to do it. Like, according to Chris Evans, everyone told him he should do it.
If I had an opportunity just to even have a walk-on part where I didn't even talk to one of the other actors in any Marvel thing, I'd be like, yeah.
Hell, I'd be a cocktail waitress and just, like, hand Tony a tray of champagne or, like, hell yeah.
And, do you know, okay, we haven't touched on this yet. So far, they've still managed to introduce Stan Lee in everything.
You know what? I was hoping they would do that when it announced that he passed, and like he'd already filmed his cameo for Captain Marvel. But I was hoping that I'm like, what if it's just like they're walking down and of course it's New York, so like there's even like the bus stops have signs on them. It's like, what if they're just walking down the street and like it's a poster with Stan Lee advertising something? What if there's like a magazine cover on the table and Stan Lee is on the cover of the magazine?
That's what they've been doing.
That's what I was hoping. I would hope there would still be I guess at this point, it's not a cameo because it's not the person, but I was hoping there would still be like an image or an Easter egg of Stan Lee. Like he could still, his image would still be in there somehow.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, every time he filmed his cameos, he goes, no, he goes, I go on to, he was filming them before movies were even started.
Yeah.
They would bring him in, and he goes, I film cameos, and then they figured a way to fit it into a movie. Because he would film one.
He'd show up and film something, and then if you asked him, he didn't even know what movie it was going to be in.
No, and a lot of times they didn't either. They'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, Stan Lee's here, let's do something.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, he's in the city today, let's use him.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of, like, when they're filming so much stuff next to each other, like, that's a lot of you're just working on other availability. It's like, oh, so-and-so's in town this day, let's shoot that scene.
And it's one of those things in every movie everybody looks for. Where Stan Lee...
You expect that, they've trained us well. We expect a Stan Lee cameo, and we expect an after credits.
Yeah. And other movies I know try to do like end scene credits or end credit scenes, and they try that sort of stuff, but Marvel's got it down to a system. And it's so funny because how many times now do you watch anything that's not Marvel, and at the end when the credits roll, you sit there and you fast forward a little, and you fast forward looking for an end, and there's nothing, and you go, fuck.
You know what? I don't find that all the time. I find it, only certain movies I expect it.
Oh.
Like, and again, maybe it's just because it's like a superhero, but like, say I'm watching like Aquaman, I'm like, are they doing it? I'm like, I know that's Marvel, but are they doing it? But yeah, sometimes I do kind of find myself waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do it
scene.
like for like a drama or something, but anything.
Yeah,
that has
that's
a lot
what
of
I mean. If it seems like the type of movie that could have it.
Yeah.
If it's like, you know, yeah, like an action comedy or another superhero movie, if it seems like the type of movie that would do it, I'll check it. I wait.
Now, have you watched the new Venom?
Yes.
Woody Harrelson. Yeah. Pick the perfect guy.
Again! All good actors are a little crazy.
Exactly.
That's all I'm going to say about Woody Harrelson.
Here's a little thing a lot of people might not know about Woody Harrelson. For him to be doing what he's doing is a huge, huge thing. Because his dad was a mob hitman.
Wow.
Yeah. Did you not know that?
I did not know.
I mean, I'm going to put it on the screen here.
Okay.
I mean, it's public knowledge, obviously. It's on there. Woody
Harrelson. American hitman, organized crime figure who was convicted of assassinating federal judge John H. Wood Jr. And then he named his kid Woody?
Yep.
What?
Yeah. So, when your dad is this person, for you to come out and be the person you came out to be, because I don't hear no one ever says Woody Harrelson's hard to work with. They all say he's a great guy. For you to come from that and still do this, to me, that's massive. And I'm going to go off topic. I'm a big JFK assassination conspiracy guy. And there's some of the stuff I watched link Woody Harrelson's dad to the assassination, but that's a whole other... That's another show.
That's another
show. But yeah, so the new Venom, at the end, they do a tie-in.
Yeah, and that was kind of the first hint. He blipped. Because I call it the snappening, but apparently the official term is blipped.
Yeah.
I like snappening.
Yeah, he blipped. And they bring, who do they talk about? Spider-Man? No.
Yeah, he blips, and then he comes back, and it's Tom Holland Spider-Man on TV, and Venom's like, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
yeah. And the tiny droplet.
Yes.
Venom's gonna be in the... Venom is officially MCU fodder now.
Well, and that's the thing, like, now all they gotta do is... And they'll never take Spider-Man from Sony.
You know what? I honestly think that, like, now that they've got a good deal going, they don't need to.
They don't need to. I think it would be awesome if they could. But would you get rid of your cash cow? because Spider-Man is what's making Sony tons of money.
Oh yeah.
So,
But honestly, I think specifically teaming up with Marvel, I think if Sony had just tried to make another Spider-Man on their own, it wouldn't have been as successful. I think teaming up with Marvel and having the crossover and having the creative input from the MCU team has improved Sony's end as well.
yeah. Now that's only if they never let Spider-Man into the MCU at all, Sony would still make a fortune on Spider-Man.
Oh, definitely.
Is Marvel's...
And again, we wouldn't have the MCU Spider-Man to compare it to. Like, you wouldn't know what you were missing.
Well, that's just that.
You know,
That's
it's like you
just it.
can't say it wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be what we have now.
Yeah.
But again, you can't compare. You know, it's like you can't miss what you've never had.
As soon as you introduce Spider-Man into the MCU and give him Tony's tech,
Yeah.
because that's...
But I am really happy that that did work out, because if Marvel had have just, you know, cast and, like, done their own Spider-Man, almost like they did with Pietro and Wanda from Fox's X-Men,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
if they had just, like, cast their own actor and done their own thing, at the same time Sony was making the next generation of Spider-Man movies. Because, like, I guess that's kind of what like, they were gonna do it at some point.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that it worked out the way it did, because I personally would not like having MCU Spider-Man and Sony Spider-Man concurrently. Like, we can look at, like, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man because it was before MCU was a thing, but, like, basically having two franchises try and have their own version of the character at the same time would have annoyed me.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
no, 100%. So I'm glad they did that whole thing. And if they keep collaborating, because I know there was that brief moment where Sony told Tom Holland, no, you can't.
I remember that was a big thing.
And, he was he was
Yeah.
crushed at that convention, and they wanted a picture of all the Avengers, and he wasn't allowed to go be in it. Sony basically said, no, no, the deal's over. We're not working with them
I remember
anymore.
that after was it Civil War or Endgame? But after one of the Avengers movies that Spider-Man was in,
Yeah.
there was like a big uproar about whether or not he'd still be, whether or not that Sony MCU deal was good. And like there was, he was technically fired for like a week.
Yeah, but
And he found out from reading it online too. So
yeah, and when he was at that convention, and they were like, "Come on over, get your picture taken with us," and Sony said, "No, you can't. You're not part of."
Wow.
Yeah, for a photo op even.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow.
I mean, I know they didn't have him doing a lot of press junkets because he gave a lot of spoilers, but I mean, you know what though? Like, I get it. Like, he's not a kid. I mean, we think he's a kid because he's been playing a teenager for 6 years.
But
I mean, he's still young. He's like, what, 24, 25?
And
like, he's still young.
Your first big breakout
And how
role.
awesome is it that you're so excited? I mean, I get this. Like, again, being part of, like, the ADHD, we totally, like, when we get excited about something, you just can't... so the fact, like, it's just so genuine. He is so excited about these movies and so excited for people. And I mean, Mark Ruffalo did the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when you get genuinely so excited about things, your brain isn't going... spoiler filter. Your brain is going, I'm part of this amazing thing and I want to tell you about it.
And, like, okay, if he got cast as, say, Quicksilver or...
he'd be just as excited.
Well, actually, I think he would be, but I don't think it would have been as much because he got cast as, like, when you say Marvel, you think Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Maybe now you probably think Iron Man or Spider-Man because of what Robert Downey Jr. did to bring Iron Man to life. But up until then, when you thought Marvel, Spider-Man is Marvel's juggernaut.
The best known DC characters were Batman and Superman.
Batman and
And
Superman.
the best known Marvel characters,
Spider-Man, and Iron Man.
and I'm trying to think pre-MCU. What was X-Men.
X-Men.
X-Men. Yeah. I knew X-Men were Marvel.
So yeah, when you're that young and you get cast as the Marvel superhero who should never have existed, actually, and you're like, how you keep that all bottled up? Yeah. You would. Oh yeah, spoilers galore. But yeah, Spider-Man. When Stan Lee first pitched the idea of Spider-Man to the editors at Marvel, they said, no, teenagers aren't superheroes. They're relegated to the role of sidekicks. And then they did one comic where there was space at the end, and they go, we need a short story to fill this up. So Stan Lee said, screw it, and he wrote a short Spider-Man story. And the fans went nuts.
See, teenagers can be superheroes if it's written well. You know,
Up until
like,
then, they weren't, though.
like-
Up until then,
but see, this is an interesting comparison because I like Spider-Man. I can get into the Spider-Man movies. I'm having a hard time getting into Miss Marvel. And I think it probably is a little bit because, like I'm an adult now. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to watch a movie about somebody in high school.
I get that.
You know, like, it just depends, again, like, how... I mean, again, there's a difference between having, like, a 10-year-old superhero and a 17-year-old superhero.
Yes.
But, you know, like, Miss Marvel's, like, what, like, 14?
14, 15,
15?
probably somewhere
Yeah.
in there.
Whereas, like, Spider-Man is, like, he was, like, you know, close
High
to
school?
graduate. Like
Yeah.
in the original trilogy, they graduated. So he's in, like, grade 12. He's, like, 17, 18.
Yeah.
It's only 4 years, but when you're that young, there's a difference.
Oh, huge.
And again,
difference.
the framing, right? Like, you see a lot of, like, except for the parts that, like, absolutely have to, very little of Spider-Man takes place at school.
Well, that's just it. Like
Like,
even in
If
any of
I'm,
them.
like, I don't want to watch a high school movie. I want to watch a superhero movie.
Yeah. Well, Ms. Marvel, not a lot of it takes place in school.
No,
either.
but she's so young, and, like, she's,
Yeah.
I don't want to say dumb, because it's not dumb, it's just lack of life experience. But
Yeah.
I'm watching it, and I feel like I'm watching a 14-year-old.
Which is exactly what they want you to see.
But that's not...
Picture 14-year-old you getting that ability.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, though. And if I was still in high school when Miss Marvel came out, I probably would like it. It's just, as an adult, I'm having a hard time
Okay.
getting as interested in this series as others.
That makes sense. One of the things that I loved about Ms. Marvel is I love how they show how her mind works with all the drawings and all the graphics and everything.
I thought that was fun, too.
I thought that was just, like, to me, that shows me how... I'm a big fan of the mind. I love how minds work and stuff. And
It's almost like She-Hulk has the narration,
yeah,
and the fourth wall thing. It's her version.
yeah,
It's her version of narrating her own show.
yeah. And you see it...
Because, again, if you are just coming in now, like, imagine we've closed the door on Endgame, and we're coming in anew, you might need to catch up on some things, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
And-
it's almost like, okay, we know not everyone, obviously. That's the thing. And I find what Marvel's good at so far is not making the assumption that everyone consuming this one piece of media has seen all your other media. People coming into the TV shows, yeah, there's probably an almost certain chance they have seen the movies, but you have to keep in mind that they might not have. So
And
it's
that's
a good
why-
way to quickly summarize or bridge some gaps.
And they drop little Easter eggs.
Hmm.
Because she's a fan of Captain Marvel. And if you've never watched any of the other MCU, they'd be like, well, who's Captain Marvel? And then you see something they show a news clip.
Yeah.
And then they talk about, remember when she saved the... So you kind of go, oh, okay, so this is someone... Be like talking about their dead uncle who,
Yeah.
rescued a puppy. So you kind of go, okay, so there's another superhero and that's what she's a fan of. You don't necessarily have to watch that to realize who Captain Marvel
Like
is.
how they just didn't bother with Tom Holland's Spider-Man origin. Like, it picked up and he just is Spider-Man already. Like, okay, we all know Bruce Wayne's parents got shot. We all know Peter was bit by a spider. And I think that was really a good choice. Because again, even if you're young enough that you maybe not have watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, there's still this peripheral cultural knowledge that Spider-Man was bit by a spider.
The one thing, see, the original, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, the three of them, awesome. Origin story, boom. And then when they rebooted with Andrew Garfield, and they did the origin, I'm like, really? Do I need to see this again?
Yeah.
And then when they announced another reboot, I'm like, oh my god, please don't do another origin story. Like, we do not...
No, it literally
they-
just picked up from Civil War with basically Tony finding this guy on the internet.
And I was like, that's perfect, because that's
Mhm.
how... And was Civil War before Far From Home? Or no, Homecoming?
Yeah, because I think so.
Dun, 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 dun.
Because wasn't that part of Homecoming? It's like, yeah, you have the suit I gave you, but
Oh.
don't go trying to be an Avenger, be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Marvel, MCU,
Oh yeah, because you have them in chronological order, not release
Yeah.
order.
release order.
Yeah.
You know what? The funny is, I pulled this all up.
I'm pretty sure Spider-Man was after Civil War.
Thor, Captain America, Iron Man 3, Thor, Dark World, Winter Soldier, Guardians, Ultron, Ant-Man, Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians 2, and then Spider-Man. Okay.
Oh, then Spider-Man?
Yeah, so there was, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, so that came out after Civil War. So
Yeah.
So Civil War into...
Civil War was basically just Tony, like, finding and adopting this kid.
Yeah. And
then the first Spider-Man movie was almost like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't be bringing teenagers into battle. You just stay here, kid. Don't be. You're not an Avenger.
You're not.
Stay home.
And then he follows him into battle.
And then he follows him to
Infinity
space.
War.
Yeah.
Mr. Stark.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they just. I would.
And again, something like, he goes to open the door and he thinks he's going. That's totally something I have probably done in the past.
What's that?
Just the little weird, like when Tony leans and he gives Tony a hug and he's like, I'm not giving you a hug, kid. I'm just getting the door.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally would have misread that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
I probably relate to, again, I just said I can't relate to teenagers, but oddly enough, I'm probably most like Tom Holland's Peter Parker.
And
which is weird because I just said I can't get into relating to teenagers, but it's weird.
But
you know what I mean? Just those goofs and those random thoughts that pop in your head. Then that's the thing. Marvel has made them really realistic superheroes.
I was about to say they've made them real people, which makes you believe.
Even Black Widow and Hawkeye, who were these massively highly skilled, highly trained. They still manage to have real personalities when they're not working.
Well, and that's just
It's you can almost tell. I mean, not really, because obviously, Scarlett Johansson is acting in both parts, and I mean, the whole part is she is amazing agent. But there's you can almost tell when Romanov is off versus when she's herself is on a mission versus when she's herself.
My favorite Scarlett Johansson
how
scene.
she can flirt her she can manipulate and flirt and everything, and then her and Bruce.
Yeah.
And Bruce is no, she's not flirting with me, and
yeah,
it's no, because her mission flirting is completely different from her flirting.
My favorite Black Widow scene was it Ultron? No, so it's when she's tied up on the chair being interrogated.
That's the very first one. That's Avengers.
That's okay.
Yeah,
so that's
and then it's put and then it's put her on the phone, and she's
I'm in the middle.
I'm in the middle of an interrogation. It's no, you can't pull me up now. I'm in the middle of an interrogation.
Yeah, they're giving me
these idiots are giving me everything,
and they're no, we're not.
Yeah, but rewatching that scene a second time, and you see it, it's okay, so who's moving? And she gives them she knows, she gives them the name of their old whatever it was doing, who's supplying this, and she gives a name, and it's that person hasn't been in the game for 6 months. This person's doing it now. She pretends to have outdated intel to get the new intel. If you watching that scene the second time, you can see her playing them more. But when you're watching it for the very first time, you're what? And then she just smacks it. She could have got out of that anytime she wanted.
Yeah.
But she's really? You're calling me in now? I'm in the middle of an interrogation. Fine, I'll be there in 5.
Я думала, генерал Солигуб отвечает за экспорт.
Солигуб. Курьер. Он прикрытие. Твоя устаревшая информация подводит тебя. Знаменитая черная вдова. Оказалось просто еще одно красивое личико.
Вы правда думаете, что я красива?
Скажи Лермонтову, что он нам не нужен, чтобы толкнуть танки. Скажи ему, он выбил. Так... You may have to write it down.
Да? Это ее.
Ты слушай внимательно.
You're at 114 Selensky Plaza, 3rd floor. We have an F-22 exactly 8 miles out. Put the woman on the phone or I will blow up the block before you can make the lobby.
Are you kidding? I'm working.
This takes precedence.
I'm in the middle of an interrogation. This moron is giving me everything.
I don't give everything.
Look, you can't pull me out of this right now.
Tasha.
Barton's been compromised.
Let me put you on hold.
When they have Loki trapped in the thing on the ship.
Yeah, and the
and
whole
she
like
goes in
she
and-
starts like crying and thinking like she lets them think he broke her, and then she's like, "Oh, thanks for cooperating."
Yeah, thank you for your
she's
cooperation.
so good at that.
And
I mean, obviously it's a team of writers and stuff, but like,
but I mean,
yeah, she's,
but if you can't act that out,
yeah,
that ruins the whole scene.
mm-hmm.
And that's
But that's what I mean. Like someone who is so highly skilled and like they have literally been doing this since they were a child, you would think they'd be almost robotic. The fact that Hawkeye and Black Widow are that highly trained but still also have like again, they feel like real people. They have personalities.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. I think that's why a lot of people like, yeah, Superman is like the strongest superhero, but he's always been kind of flat. He's always been the Boy Scout. He's always been kind of
Unrelatable.
one-dimensional. That's why they wanted to redo Thor. They thought he was getting too one-dimensional.
Yeah, and he was.
So yeah, but Marvel has Marvel has had like real, you know, Tony being an alcoholic and having PTSD.
Yeah.
Superheroes can have real problems.
And that's why, like, you could sit and watch those and go, I could be Iron Man. If I could make a suit, I could do that. Because he can do it. Why can't I? Even though you know, like, that...
I mean, yeah, he's
now,
super duper... I am not a genius. I could not. But in theory, yeah, he didn't necessarily have any superpowers.
There's
He just wanted to...
YouTube video with Adam Savage from the Mythbusters. And he actually, it's from his show. I can't remember what the show was called. But he got a group of people together and they used a 3D printer and they printed using its bulletproof, a bulletproof metal thing. He printed an Iron Man suit that was bulletproof. And then he contacted this other company and who makes the like the jetpack things and got them to make something so he could fly.
And
they
when
made
you think about what they're doing with VR now, they could kind of probably design something that was like inside the helmet that looked like the heads-up display was bigger. Like what they're doing with virtual reality now, they could probably make something like the Iron Man helmet.
Well, what they did with this is they put it all together and they made an Iron Man suit that flew.
Cool.
And there's video of it, and it's like, okay, it can only go so high and can only go so long because, you know.
Yeah.
But if we're there now,
if we're that close,
that close, how far away are we from having an actual Iron Man?
And I think that's almost why, like, I know it's only 3 phases, but I'll call them like the first segment, the first embodiment of the Avengers.
Yeah.
Versus now they're bringing all the new ones in. Like, they were realistic, right? It was people building things. It was like agents. It was skills. Like, yeah, this was kind of realistic. Like you said, hey, if I was that smart, I could be Iron Man. Whereas opposed to like magic or like Superman's an alien.
You're really stuck on this magic thing.
I'm just wondering where it came. It just, to me, it feels like, and for something as organized and as planned out as the MCU, with the exception of Doctor Strange in the first segment, it feels like it's all coming out of left field. A little bit.
Okay, but I put it to you then, if...
Yeah, you mentioned your time frame thing.
The time frame thing, but at the same time, if they introduced all of that right from the start and had all that going on, everyone would be like, there's too much going on in these shows. So that's why it's kind of like, well, these guys are off doing they're fighting minor things. It's kind of like Spider-Man was around. Spider-Man was around the whole time during the first...
I'm almost wondering... and this is just kind of my, what about the blip? Because, like, the Infinity Stones, not quite, they call them, like, cosmic, but it's not science. It is kind of magic. I wonder if something about, like, the blip and the coming back, like, if it is somehow there's residue, like, magic is, like, yeah, there's always been, like, a little bit, but now it's, like, amped up a little, or, like, now, like, the background radiation's higher or something. Like, maybe it's something about the Infinity Stones affecting the universe is like waking up all these things.
But how come we didn't see more Spider-Man in Phase 2? He was obviously around because Tony saw him in a newspaper.
Again, because we don't
at the end.
need the origin story again. And they kind of established he was just running around in like the sweatsuit, right?
Yeah, but
he
we
was
did-
literally just doing two
yeah.
neighborhoods, like stopping carjackings and stuff.
Yeah.
Again, he wasn't Ultron level. He wasn't on their radar, so you
And
can
again,
kind of be the
but
same
magic
thing for.
people, if they're doing things off
Yeah.
the side that aren't really,
I guess,
like,
yeah.
like newsworthy, and they're just doing
Like,
the
I mean,
minor.
the Sanctum Sanctorum, like, there was this whole Sorcerer Supreme and this whole, like, magic society that the Avengers knew nothing about. So I
Yeah.
kind of get what you're saying there. And I
Yeah.
actually want to look up, like, what the time, like, not our timeline, obviously, because it was, like, 15 years, but, like, in MCU universe time, what's the distance between Avengers and Endgame?
Well,
Okay, I guess I should say Avengers and Infinity War, because obviously there was,
Yeah.
like, 5 years passed. But, like, from Avengers 1 to Avengers 3, to them, how much time has passed? I would kind of be interested in that. Because, yeah, I guess I get what you're saying. Like,
time frame.
and again, they make reference to other things. Like, we know in between movies, the Avengers were working on, like, stopping Hydra and, like, catching arms dealers. They don't need to show the little stuff. So I understand what you're saying there. But I feel like there should have at least been, like, a hint or a whisper, an Easter egg.
You would think. Our movie's timeline. That's probably going to take a little bit of
Yeah, this is going to take some digging.
timeline by year.
Oh.
Because obviously it starts in the 40s with Captain America.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I mean. Just from, like, the first Avengers, like, from they first formed the team, up into Infinity War. Because I know between Infinity War and Endgame, there's, like, the 5-year gap. So from the Avengers assemble to Avengers get dusted, how much time passed in Avengers world?
I am going to do some research on that. Because, like I said, if it spanned...
Like, it was like 10, 12 years for us.
For us, it started in the first Iron Man, which would have been...
2007? 2008? I'm going to say 2007.
2008. So,
yeah.
And then Infinity War was 2018.
Yeah, because that's what they said. Yeah.
Or not Infinity War, Endgame.
Yeah.
Endgame, 2019.
Yeah.
So, you're talking 11 years.
Yeah, like for us it's been 11 years. But in universe, obviously, because like, and where they made them out of order too, right? Like,
Yeah.
they released them out of chronological
So what kind of
order. So,
time
I mean,
frame?
like, it probably hasn't been 11 years for these characters.
There's a takeaway right
Yeah.
there. I'm going to write that down. Because nice, yeah, I have... These are the things that stick in my head that I have...
Yeah. These are the kind of things that, like, I get really curious about and then forget to look up. And then I'm just
MCU.
always wondering.
Time span and movies. She rages when she plays. It's rather funny. Is she getting... See, every time I hear her raise her voice, I have to come in here and just check things, see if she needs mod. You know, and, like, put people. But yeah, so now I have to find that out because, I mean, for us, like I said, it was 11 years.
Yeah.
But in their time frame, that could have been a 2-year thing.
Yeah.
Even shorter. And then if it is, then it makes perfectly sense why you wouldn't see any magic because it was just a short time frame. It's
and they were kind of busy with like alien invasions and killer robots. They weren't worried about Doctor Strange and his wizard friends.
Well, that's just it because they were just doing their own thing.
You're embarrassing me in front of the wizard. Again, there's just so many iconic lines. Like every movie just has so many good lines. That's what I mean, though. Like,
and that's where I think everybody else drops the ball. And I'm not just
the
saying
banter,
DC.
that's what I mean. The biggest shock with the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League was they cut all the banter, they cut all the funny, they cut all the things that make these characters seem likable. You know, like that thing with like Wonder Woman lassoing Aquaman and he's like, I would have liked to fight alongside the Amazons once. I'm not ready to die. You know, like all the stuff that like makes it fun. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of people beating up a bunch of other people.
And that's kind of what DC is, though. DC, if you read their comics, DC doesn't have the banner. They'll have that dark banter between like Joker and Batman. But DC is not known for their comic banter when they're fighting or anything, whereas Marvel, all of them, when they're fighting the bad guys, they make these little comments. As I said, with Tony Stark, when Iron Man goes into that room and, hey guys, can we talk? And they all start shooting him, and he shoots him, and he goes, good
Okay,
talk.
good talk.
And that one
Please
little,
be a secret door. Please be a secret. Yay.
yeah, and stuff like that.
Because, like, yeah, I totally do that too. Yay, I found the secret passage.
Oh, my one weakness.
Tiny knives.
Tiny knives.
Yeah.
That wasn't just for the movies. They brought that right from the comics.
And I think, like, going back to Stan Lee, I'm pretty sure I read up a little bit on this. Wasn't he the one that kind of revolutionized that? And, like, that's always kind of been one of the big differences between DC and Marvel. DC has always been, like, one issue, tidy little ending, heroes are the good guys. Marvel, and specifically Stan Lee, was the first one to kind of start giving them problems that couldn't be solved in one or two issues, like alcoholism, like like he was the one, he kind of started giving heroes flaws.
He's the one who he wanted to make them relatable, because the more relatable they were, obviously more sales, but more believable. And that's why, like, when little girls started writing, how come there's no female things? And he was like, let's introduce female. Oh, you just got
I just had a thought, yeah. It's almost like, you know how you say, like, oh, the real lesson behind Scooby-Doo is that the monsters were people all along? Yeah. This is almost like the flip side of that, of, like, like, superheroes, especially when we go back to, like, the campy, colorful superheroes, it's very clearly good guys and bad guys. This is like, okay, you can have flaws and still be the hero.
Yeah.
You can be a good guy and still have bad personality aspects. You know? Like, again, it just makes them real. Like, real life, things are never black and white.
No.
You know? So, yeah, like, giving them, and making them real, the banter, the funny thoughts,
Yeah, and the only exception to you can be the good guy but still have is Captain America.
That's true. He's the Boy Scout.
And that's because of who he was to begin with.
Which is
he was always the guy that got bullied.
How he became Captain, like, that's why he's Captain America in the first one. I mean, look at this John guy. You take someone without that background, give them the Super America powers, they're going to become a dick.
Oh,
he was chosen for Captain America because of who he was before the powers.
Yeah.
And but again, he wasn't as, like almost like straight-laced, like Superman's always very, like, yeah, Superman's a person, but he's, he's still, I don't want to say flat, but, like, they managed to give him, like, yes, he really is the epitome of a good human being, but he still has a personality. You could still sit down and be friends with this guy.
Yeah.
Superman, I feel like you would just be like, I mean, he literally is Superman. It's just, like, unattainable kind of thing. Like, you couldn't relate to him at all. He's on another
level. He can't relate to a human problem.
Yeah. Kind of, or, like, he's just, like, so, like, well, you know the joke, they call him the Boy Scout, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, okay, like, equivalent, and that's the thing, like, we were talking one day about how Marvel and DC superheroes, like Aquaman and Namor the Sea Mariner, Mariner, oh my god, Mariner, Iron Man and Batman, like, they all have their opposites, and a lot of people would say, see, this is where the debate comes in, because is Superman's counterpart Captain America, or is it Thor? Personality and color scheme, you would think Captain America, but powers and origin story, he's an alien who that's normal on his planet, but is, like, super strength to us. They both wear capes. Like, Thor could really be his counterpart as well.
Captain Marvel would be his counterpart.
Sort of.
Bulletproof, like, can't really kill him, all that.
But again, she's human who was, like, irradiated.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're talking, like, backs, not so much.
But at the same time...
But, like, if we're talking, like, powers and backstory, it's Thor. If we're talking, like, personality, it's probably closer to Captain America, where he, like, always wants to do the right thing. But yeah, you're right. Probably Marvel, as far as, like, basically invincible.
Yeah. But and again, this is a credit to Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, and I know there's a couple other ones.
Yeah.
Kirby
was the illustrator.
Yes.
That was the big thing, was Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were, like, the big Marvel team.
And they're the ones who made the characters realistic. Like when I discovered Spider-Man, again, I was a kid. Here's a teenage guy who could be a superhero. He had girlfriend problems. He had school problems. He had money problems. And as a 10-year-old watching Spider-Man and going, wow, like, relatable.
Yeah. But even that's like a fine line, because like I said, it could turn out, like I'm kind of having a problem with Miss Marvel where she just seems too immature.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get into her as a character. Movies are like a form of escapism. So you want relatable, but you don't want so relatable that it kills the fantasy vibe.
Have you watched Big Mouth? Oh no, you don't have Netflix.
No. I've seen a couple episodes.
Biggie
one
Mac.
of my friends.
How does a dirty old balding man get pretty girls to talk to them? This is pretty. Oh yeah, I'm uploading this to YouTube, and you made me do that. That's Henry.
Ah. I figured it was one of your friends commenting.
That's Henry from down the road.
Yeah.
So anyone who just saw me give the double finger in the VOD, and that's what that was for. But yeah, when you get relatable, like Big Mouth. I haven't licked your window yet, but I will. Okay. Window licker. When you get where is he going with that? Okay, Big Mouth. My friend, my one friend across town. I'm not gonna say her name on cam, but she just turned 30 or something. Anyway, she's in that age range. And a lot of people complain about Big Mouth because they said it's very perverted and, it's because it's cartoon and it is very, very perverted. But it's basically about kids discovering they're just coming into puberty and
they're like hormone monsters.
And she even said, she goes, where was this show when I was a kid? Because this is so relatable. And I'm like, so that's where you kind of got to go with the Miss Marvel things. Like, if you look at it through,
and again, if this had come out when I was still in high school, I'd probably like it. But being, and again, there's such a huge difference. It really is like the longer you're alive, the different perception time have. Like there is we have a huge age gap.
Yeah.
Like at least 10 years, right? I don't even remember. I don't remember.
I'm almost 30 years age difference.
Oh wow! Okay.
'Cause you're what again? 30?
I just turned. Am I 31 or 30? I'm 31 or 32.
Okay, I just turned 57.
Okay.
Oh no, I get so I'm almost
double.
Almost
not
30
quite
years.
though.
Yeah.
But like there's like but we can still relate and talk. But even like there is a huge age difference even between like 12 and 15 and then 15 and 18 and 18 and 21.
Absolutely.
So, if this show came out when I was still in high school or maybe even my early 20s, I probably would enjoy it more. But now as a 30-year-old watching a show about a 14-year-old who acts and talks like a 14-year-old, I just can't. I don't want to go back to high school. Why do I? It's great for the audience it's meant for. I am just not the audience it's meant for.
Well, I see now, and I just, the first episode, I was hooked.
Yeah?
I was hooked because, again, I watched it through the mind of 14-year-old me. And when I watched it, I'm like, through my 14-year-old me mind, but my today mind too, because I'm watching it going, I see where they're going with this with the MCU, and I can also, as the kid in me, is like, wow, like if I found that bracelet, I would do that, and I would do, and so like I watch it through, I guess, both eyes, both brains.
Yeah, but no, I mean even just compare Kamala. Yeah, compare Kamala to Kate Bishop, who technically is like what, 19, 20? Like she's still young.
Yeah. But
just those like extra 5 years, Kate Bishop was a lot more tolerable than Kamala is.
Even 2 years difference.
Yeah.
And it's because when you're 14, you don't have a clue about anything.
No.
You're clueless.
And that's
And
what
then-
I mean, like, listening to the show, and I mean, I get that's her character, like, she is 14, but everything from, like, the way she talks, and it's like, I don't want to hang out with a 13-year-old, why am I spending my time watching, you know?
Oh, okay, and you know, I totally get that.
In that sense.
And when I watch it, I'm like, I can't wait to see where she goes with this. Not so much.
I'm still interested to see what happens, just her as a character, I can't really...
relate to?
Getting invested.
Yeah. See, my whole time I'm watching it, our brains work differently.
Oh, definitely.
We've established that a long time ago. Our brains work totally differently. But my brain, when I'm watching it, I'm already envisioning the next season. I'm envisioning the next Marvel. So my brain, as I'm watching this, my brain is playing out a whole other scenario. It's kind of like, and some people say, doesn't it ruin movies for you? Like when I watch a movie, I know it's a movie. And in my head, I'm picturing cut. I'm picturing, get on my mark. I picture all that in my head when I watch it, but it doesn't take away from the movie.
No, I'm the same. Actually, I love behind the scenes stuff. And remember that, the first Avengers movie, that like long shot through New York, like the first time they're fighting as a team, and it's like Tony's flying, and then we turn around this corner, and here's Thor and Hawkeye, and then we're up here, and that long shot. I remember watching a feature, actually I think it was probably on a DVD feature or something, but like of how that shot was made, and it's fascinating. Actually, honestly, the behind the scenes stuff is probably the only reason I went to see Avatar in theaters. Story-wise, it's just Blue Pocahontas, but I was watching Discovery Channel one day, and there was this thing about behind the scenes and the camera, and like watching, and it's like, it shows up on the screen as Avatar, and I'm like, I actually want to see how this turned out. Plot line. Whatever, seen it 20 times already. Because I saw the behind the scenes feature, I wanted to see the movie.
Well, and it's funny because, like, going with the movie, like, their Avatar itself, I don't get what all the hype was about.
It's Blue Pocahontas.
It's basically like any other movie where
it's Dances with Wolves in space.
Foreign people
That's what
go
I mean.
and invade a new land.
We've seen this plot so many times.
Yeah.
I probably would have seen it when it came to video, because, like, we just watch a lot of movies. That's what we do. But what made me want to be like, I want to see this in theater, and I want to see this, like, with the 3D glasses. It's like, I saw the behind-the-scenes featurette, and that was like, ooh, I want to see how this all came together. Like, I want to see how the end product is. So I do a little bit of that, too. I find, and same thing, I don't really mind spoilers. Like, okay, I knew before Infinity War that, like, half of them were, like, again, I don't read the comics, but, like, you hear the buzz, and you know a little bit, and it's like, so, like, half of them are gonna get turned to dust, and I mean, like, but it's still incredible when it's happening on screen, so, like, I'm one of those...
It's one thing to know, but then you see it.
I don't mind minor spoilers.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, sometimes people will be like, oh, I don't want to give you spoilers. I'm like, no, tell me spoilers. Like, the whole, actually, again, like I said, seeing behind the scenes is the reason I watched Avatar. Knowing the twist, again, it's 20 years old, not a spoiler alert, of, like, Fight Club. It's the same guy.
Yeah.
I heard, and I'm like, wait, because again, until then, I thought it was just a movie about, like, a couple guys, like,
in a fight club.
Yeah. And I'm like, wait, this is like a mental, like, thriller mystery thing? That's what made me want to watch Fight Club. So, like, knowing the twist ending is what got me interested enough to watch it. So I don't mind spoilers at all. And actually, sometimes, if I'm having a hard time, like we were talking about, like, maybe Stephen King's writing style, how it's a little slow to get going.
Yeah.
If I know something good is coming, it motivates me to stick through the slower parts. Or, like, those TV shows that have, like, a season that's just, like, really hard to get through, but, like, everyone's saying, oh, the next one's really good.
Yeah.
It helps me power through maybe the lower points. So I actually don't mind spoilers. Like, don't give me a major spoiler. But, oh yeah, half them get turned to dust. Okay. I'm gonna watch it anyway.
My brother and his family do not watch any special features.
Really?
No behind. He goes, no, it ruins the movie for me. I'm like, how can it ruin the movie? When you watch the movie, like when I watch Star Wars, I know that never happened. I know I know it's not real.
Yeah.
So watching how they take these miniatures and make them look real and, like,
see, it's really cool because I love seeing behind the scenes feature because it's amazing what we can do now. But at the same time, I've seen some of it as just like kind of weird. Like, I don't remember what show it was for. I don't think it was specifically for one show. It was like a featurette showing how TV shows in general are made. And what they were like literally filming outside. And there was like a sidewalk and a fence and then like the background with the subdivision, right? So they set up the green screen behind the fence and film. So the actors are walking down the sidewalk and it's a real sidewalk and a real fence and a green screen, and then I'm like, why not just use the real scenery? You know? So, like, it's amazing what special effects can do, but also, why are we using them just for the sake of using them? Like
that, yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Me, it's, like I said, when I watch a movie, like, I'm not talking about just watching the special features. I'm watching, like, when I watch a movie, my brain is playing out all the cut, getting your mark, and
yeah.
brain,
there's definitely sometimes
my brain
like,
is
I'm watching
being
a
director.
movie and being like, wow, that would have been a really intense film to scene. A really intense scene to film.
There you go.
Or like, oh, that must have been so much fun to film or train for.
Yeah.
You know?
Me, I'm picturing in my head, cut, all right, and cue this, and cue
and do it again.
I play the director in my head, but it doesn't ruin the movie for me, because when I'm watching it, and then if there's special features, I'm like, oh wow, that's cool, they did that, and you know, that's not how I thought they would have did that, and then it gives me ideas to do the creative stuff that I do here, like even my simple overlays. Like, if you would have saw the overlay I had for this stream here, that centered blue bar that separates the cams, it was like 2 more inches wider. And I had the big 42 in the center, and then I got looking at it last night, and I'm like, that's going to just draw everybody's attention there, as opposed to on us. So I reworked, and doing streaming is teaching me a lot about being the creative process, and not so much directing, but it gives me a better understanding, I guess, of what goes into. Because this is like super minor production stuff. It gives me a greater respect for what they did with the MCU, because my brain. So it's like trying to picture the size of the universe in your head.
Yeah.
Your brain can't comprehend it.
No. Or like the credits, and it's like the VFX team, and it's like 3 screens of like 75 names each. It's like the VFX team just goes on and on and on, and they like packed all the names in there.
Well, and that's just it. So, like, if you've got, even, picture 20 people working on visual effects. As like, how do they all work together to do this one little thing?
Yeah.
So there's one little thing on the screen, and it took 20 people to do that. And I get why it takes 20 people, because there's a lot to it. But then you go, how did these guys all click? And this is the mind-boggling part, that the people who don't understand why the MCU is such a big thing. It wasn't just, like we were saying earlier, it's not just the actors, it's not just the director, it's not just the casting director, it's not just the cameraman, it's the effects, like, all these teams. It really
was a team effort in every sense of the word.
Every sense of the word.
And literally, like, like miscasting one actor could have derailed the whole Avengers saga.
Mishiring a casting director.
Yeah.
Could have screwed everything up.
Like
a director.
Making the wrong costume decisions.
Anything. So everything, and this is why the MCU will, if the Smithsonian Institute were smart, they would take phase 1 to 3 and put them there and preserve them for all time. Because, yes, you have your Citizen Kanes, and you have, like, these, To Kill a Mockingbird, and all these big movies that are cinematic, masterpieces. But I really don't think any of them will match the 23 movies.
Yeah, and I mean, even from like a cinematography, because I have a whole rant I could go into, but from a cinematography point of view, and also like look at how movies evolve. Like, you can't compare classics like Wizard of Oz and Citizen Kane to things like the Avengers, and people might be like, oh, they're not cinema, they're not serious movies. It's okay, but think about like how much work goes and how much like dedication and planning, and it's like
they're still acting.
Consider how movies and special effects have evolved. Like, if you're gonna say they rely too much on CGI to be considered cinema, well, okay, almost no movies made today meet the criteria of cinema.
Yeah.
Like, CGI is so
CGI
rampant that, like, if you're setting arbitrary limits on what can and can't be considered cinema versus just an action flick, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, like, I kind of agree. Like, this is an amazing feat. Like, keeping all this straight, keeping all the moving
together.
pieces.
And even, okay, the CGI, yeah, okay, lots of CGI. The actors still... They're standing in front of a green screen, they don't see anything but green, and they gotta pretend there's this 12-foot monster they're fighting.
Robert Downey Jr.'s co-star was basically Siri.
Yeah.
And he made it seem like they were best friends.
That's acting.
Yeah.
So, again, you can take all the say, oh yeah, you know, it's all CGI, it's, you know, how good would it do without CGI? It's the actors working with it. Some actors, after they do one of those big, heavy FX movies, say they'll never do another one because working in front of green screen.
Lord of the Rings, Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
Apparently had a big meltdown.
Yeah, he's like, because I'm trying to act. There's nothing there for me to act with, and then you take these guys, and they're all in front of a huge green screen, fighting nothing.
And
And
that being said, though, I will argue that you can see the difference between The Lord of the Rings using practical effects and The Hobbit using a lot more CGI.
yes,
I do think that.
well, yeah, because your brain.
I mean, I don't know what the decision making behind it was, but like, I know there was a massive amount, like, making thousands of pieces of armor, you know, the cart to make the hobbits look super small, and the force perception and stuff. I can understand why maybe he didn't want to take on that again, especially committing to a trilogy. But at the same time, to compare the two, and considering that The Hobbit was made later and therefore should kind of look better, you can see the quality difference between practical and CGI still.
Oh, yeah. How's your day going, Shell, by the way? Well, any practical effect is going to give a better acting effect, because if you can see this in front of you, you can act towards it better than if they say, pretend you're holding a phone. Okay, a phone this big, like, how big is this phone? Is it long?
And especially asking that of someone nowadays. Pretend you're holding a phone. Are you going to go like this? Are you going to go like this?
Well, that's just it.
Think, like, if someone just said today, hold a phone.
Shell, you perv. Told you, $20. Tell me where to send it. I'll send you the $20 in Adele. But yeah, and so, like, again, acting with a physical prop, physical effect is going to should always give you a better result than green screen. But at the same time, no, I was going to send you $20 to take her. Last time I told her that, she sent me $20. I'm like, no, she did. She literally sent me $20. I'm like, no, I'll send you $20 and Adele.
Yeah.
But yeah, in front of, and this is again credit to the actors who can sit there and do that big fight scene at the end of Endgame. That's like 90% green screen, and they try to interact and do, and you know, kudos to the effects team, but kudos to them, because how you can pretend there's this monster
and keep all that coordinated, like,
and that's just
a good example. Like, you go back, I mean, I know it's like old-ish now, but like the first Harry Potter movie, where like they go on Quidditch and they release the snitch, and like the two actors, like Harry and Oliver, and they're just like they were looking in different directions because the snitch was like added in later.
Yeah.
So like there's nothing to act off of. It's like,
exactly.
yeah, like, oh, it's flying around, it's flying. You don't know where they're gonna put it.
Exactly.
So yeah, like you look at like some parts of that scene and like they're facing completely different directions.
And it's funny because you see, now that to me is where the director would come in and say, okay, you know,
that's where the tennis ball on a stick
tennis
comes
ball,
in.
a green tennis ball on a string.
Yeah.
and do it in front of a green screen, and then and just whip it around and
Yep.
make it fall. But again, Marvel, they got all these people to act against the. Thank you for the biddies, Shell. Appreciate it. Love the biddies. And Shell has been awesome. But yeah, so when you put that whole Marvel thing into perspective again, and it's like all that stuff worked together. And I know we're sounding like we're
by all
repeating.
means, that should have been a hot mess.
It should have. It
But-
should not have worked.
Yeah.
Almost $30 for 1,500 bits every pay. Wow. You rock. You rock. That's all I can say. But yeah, you have to be a real hater, I guess would be the word, to not recognize the effort and skill and talent that all worked in 23 movies.
Yeah.
How long have we been doing now?
Oh.
Wow,
It is 3
3 hours and
hours.
15 minutes.
Wow.
Wow. I didn't think we'd figure enough to talk about for an hour and a half. I was
Wow.
like, how are we going to stretch this out? But I think on that note, we should probably call her a day. I won't keep you here any
Lunch
longer.
break.
Yeah, lunch break. Have a bite to eat. I'm getting a little hungry.
Yeah.
And let you go home and eat because you probably want to relax because you got work tomorrow.
Yeah.
But on that note, we are going to go find, you know what I'm going to do? Because she's still streaming. And she's still playing. We're going to go.
We should go screen bomb her.
I'm going to raid her first. And then we'll go up and stand behind her in her camp.
I think I'm going to pay that screen bomb.
$500 worth, I think. Wow. Look at you go, Shell. So,
this little face. The floaty thing.
Oh, I have what's called an emote wall.
Yeah.
So if I type a message in here and I put my emo, so there's my Kit Kat bar, that's my raid message. This is my Dame, that's my pineapple. Fortnite, that's just a bug Dame with.
Oh, okay. It just floats on the screen then.
And then, if I hit enter.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And then they will.
I haven't been seeing them on this screen. I just
Oh,
look
yeah.
over and there's like stuff moving here, and I'm like, oh, what did I miss?
There they go.
Ooh.
Alright, she's
All
back.
right.
So,
Cool.
alright, guys. So she doesn't hear this. We are gonna raid. We're gonna raid. Guess who? Don't say anything. It's a surprise. If you're sub to me and you're still hanging out in here, you can use copy and paste that message there, or you can copy and paste this next message, or use whatever you want. It's not about promote me. It's about creating hype when we go in there and bug the crap out of them. And there we go. Copy paste. So thanks everybody for hanging out. Shell, thanks for the biddies. Kate, thanks for joining me on this lovely first.
Thanks for having me. This
inaugural.
was a lot of fun.
This was awesome. We will do it again. We'll find
For
out
sure.
a subject because
Yes.
I actually didn't expect to go this long.
Yeah.
I didn't expect for us to have this much to talk about, but it was really cool. We kind of got sidetracked, but we got back to it. But yeah, so in the meantime, everybody, have fun, stay safe. Stay safe. Keep your stick on the ice. If the women don't find you handsome, maybe they at least find you handy. Odds are we will be streaming tonight, doing our usual COD and Dead by Daylight. And we are going to raid in 3, 2, 1. Raid! Cool. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That was. Wow, 3.5 hours. No wonder I never leave on time.
There's her raid thing.